Welcome. Flat Earth Debate, members only, live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're watching after the fact and you are new to this channel, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live or premiering, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to David Abendroth, Twying to Twiangle, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google, which is Matthew, Neil, 10th Man, Arwin, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Again.
Hello.
Yeah, morning.
Good morning once again.
Is this a live stream, by the way, in members?
It will be.
Members only?
Yeah, it's going to be in about 30 seconds. I just want to make sure it's actually working first. So.
Okay.
We
Right.
back, yeah?
Yeah. At the moment, it's just running out unlisted, but I'm going to turn it on to members only in about 10 seconds.
There's a video premiering on your main channel, by the way.
Yeah, I realise, but that's already gone out to members, so the members who have watched that video already will be more interested in watching a live stream that we're doing, Arwin. But for the general public, who I'm too embarrassed to put a live stream out to, they can watch that. Yeah, hopefully this will go well. So during the test phase of my setting up an hour early, I ran it an hour early with it all live streaming absolutely perfectly. And then when I went actually live, like before, 6 minutes into the show, just died on its ass. Although it did show signs of doing that before. So, I don't know, it's just one of those. But like before, I'm just going to pay more attention to what's going on my computer rather than what's going on in the live stream. So hopefully you guys will talk amongst yourselves a little bit more than normal. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad you're all so keen to take the pressure off me. That's good to know.
Oh, waiting for a housekeeping
You're
question or
welcome.
something.
All right, John, what were you saying earlier about your kitchen?
Well, I can prove my kitchen's not flat if I take a angle measurement from the floor and then I use that fixed height that I get and use the next arc angle measurement by half. I can show that my kitchen can't be flat, therefore it has to be a sphere.
Yes, you do have a video on this, I remember. Where you put the protractor on the floor.
Yeah, no flatter anti-flat Kitchener tried to debunk it or anything. So
Wait
Yeah,
a
but
second. If you
but the-
put the protractor on the floor, how you get measurements? If it's sphere.
Neil, don't ask questions like that. You'll only confuse the audience.
Neil, he put a tangent plane on his kitchen floor.
Too late, already confused.
Just whenever you see those pictures with the plane on top of the sphere and equatorial plane.
The dingleberry.
No, forget the dingleberry. Just think of John's kitchen. That's how silly it is. That's how the calculation, how they deceive you.
I wish it wasn't that easy, but it is.
So basically, John pre-assumes his kitchen is a sphere. So then he puts because of that presupposition, he lives on a curve. So he puts a protractor down on that kitchen floor. He says, this is a tangent plane. And it's the same as the equatorial plane of my kitchen sphere. And since the light is coming in parallel, whatever angle I get here, I'm actually getting from the center of my kitchen which is a sphere. And there you go.
Too easy.
Convinced? I'm convinced that's a strong argument. You went to the center of a presupposed sphere kitchen and took an angle measurement. That's awesome, John.
I like to know how he did
Thank you.
that.
That's the
Go
same
watch
way
the
you do it to
video.
the globe. You hijack their methodology. He just said it a second ago. I wish it wasn't that simple, but that's how we've been deceived. It's not like John's come up with something clever. No offense, John, you've converted their methodology into a dumbed down version of turning your kitchen into a sphere, which is clever. But the methodology itself isn't John's. Just to make that absolutely clear, it's the globe methodology.
I understand that, but they still needed flat planes to get it to. They can't get it on a curved surface. So they used flat Earth measurements. He had to. How would he turn it into a sphere?
That's the point that John is trying to say. The flat Earth precedes the sphere. The flat kitchen floor precedes the kitchen sphere.
I know, but we got to keep the conversation going. So, did you turn any other rooms into a sphere, John? I would like to turn my doghouse into a sphere. How would I do that? Same way?
Well, you would take you find a fixed point of reference that you would call your point of rotation. You'd measure an angle from it. Then you would do everything 10th just said. You turn the angle measurement into radians, and then calculate, as if you're measuring from the center of your doghouse.
Or you could look up John's famous YouTube video. It's a how-to.
You can just hang a disco ball in your doghouse, and here's the biz. Your doghouse is a sphere.
Yeah, but isn't that funny how when you tell, like I was telling my brother the radius of Earth, he was like, "It can't be. That's too small." I'm like, "That's what they say the radius is. We didn't make it up. It's 3959." He's like, "But from New York to California is like 3,000 miles." They're always shocked when they hit with the reality that it's very small, this Earth, but they always say it's too big. You can't feel movement. So big.
Well, in all fairness, if you considered how far we drilled down, 10 miles or something like that, you couldn't even get through Rhode Island with that.
Yeah, but they say I could go from where I am right through the center of the Earth to the other side in 40 minutes.
What did you just, Neil?
If there was a tunnel with no free, nothing in my way, you could get to the other side of the Earth in 40 minutes.
What do you think, guys? Should we have a housekeeping questions that ends in yes?
Yeah.
What, like,
Any
what?
evidence of a flat Earth? Yeah, plenty.
I got one. Whether the radius is 3959 according to what they say, or whether it's 3 times or 4 to 6 times that much, will it require a flat baseline to have a tangent, horizontal,
Yes.
eye level? Okay, thank you.
Is there any evidence astronauts are lying?
See,
well, that's an ipso facto truth, Neil. Like, the place they're claiming to go can't exist, or we'd all be dead. So,
John, the people stand at a pulpit, John. These are Christians. These are men of God that are in ministries.
and they should be ashamed of themselves. You're right.
So I've published the pre-show. So we did get an hour because I started an hour early under the suspicion that I might have an issue. And then once we were live, I was overconfident. I'm like, share the show. It's going to be okay. Anyway, that hour's gone out to members now. So that once it's finished uploading, obviously. But presumably while we're still recording that, but it'll go out. Anyway, just so you know.
But was it
Yeah.
the computer or OBS? Or was it the same? I don't know.
Oh, it's going to have been the computer. Anyway, don't
Who's
worry about it. The reason
No worries.
I was so quick to get on the case and just restart and change various voltages is because I've got it written down. So fallback number 1 is in effect. This goes wrong. There's something else I can do, which is good. So all weekend's worth of work so that I could restart this show and have a members only show immediately afterwards. Great. One day I'll stop.
Just so
focusing on
you
it. Go on.
Just so you know, Nathan, every time your computer's failed, I've either been in the process of logging in or just logged in to meet.
Mm.
Well,
So
why don't
it
you get
is.
on earlier?
Well, it's a direct correlation to Nathan's computer troubles.
I'm pretty sure that your presence affected the voltage to the RAM, most certainly. I was trying to get away
I
with,
am electrified.
I was trying to get away with what I consider to be the lowest possible voltage for the RAM. So I was just like, I'll just lower it. The most efficient that I described is the lowest voltage. Well, that means that I'm sacrificing stability. Now I know that even though I spent probably 10 hours actually live streaming to YouTube over the weekend, testing it, boring, watching my kid play Minecraft just to test the computer, it still crashes. It just doesn't seem to matter how much I test it. It doesn't make any difference. Anyway. That said, I knew I'd push. I'd have hoped those settings would have worked, but I was pushing the limits, and I knew I was. So hence, I've got 2 fallbacks.
I mean, it could be that, or it could just be how electrifying my personality is.
Nah,
And I am so sorry, Nathan.
I hope that it was the internet. That's what I was blaming, because it didn't actually fully crash. It just started to slow down in terms of how much it could encode. That's indicative of the RAM not connecting correctly. Anyway, we're live. This is boring. This isn't a pre-show. We are actually live
Not
to the
boring.
members.
We have to figure out how we're going to meet when they shut everything down.
One of my mods just gave me a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Goldie. Very supportive of you. She says just supporting the channel. She says, thank you very much for the super chat.
You know, my
Goldie
theory.
is
Did anybody in the pre-show? Did anybody come up with evidence of Earth curvature?
Hell no.
Yes,
Yeah,
boats
but you
going over
missed
the
it.
horizon.
You missed it.
What do we
Hey
miss?
Nathan, I think you're making too many waves. I think you're making too many waves against the hierarchy opposition, and I think they're just
Trust me,
trying to
we're
make a
not.
strategy. You don't think so? Well, let's just say you're the only one that's
Isn't
going against
everybody
them.
so quick to jump to? How did the opposition get into Nathan's house and sabotage his computer?
They
You don't
didn't.
have to.
They didn't. I set the RAM to 1.35 volts, hoping I could keep it cooler, knowing that it probably needs 1.39. That's all it was.
Back to
I
the
knew you
video.
were an agent.
That was Nathan all the time.
Yeah. It's just a constant battle between heat and stability. Heat also causes instability. So if it gets too hot, it'll become unstable. But if you keep it cool by giving it less voltage, it will be unstable. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. But there we go. That's life. Anyway, let's
Just
stop talking about the computer. I like talking about it when it's working.
Just so you know, guys, Nathan's already admitted to being an advanced heliocentrism expert. So it's
Yeah.
all written on
We
the
all are.
walls.
We are all advanced heliocentric experts. I mean, maybe not Neil, but most of us.
Well,
No,
that's
the heliocentrism expert. You know, like
I don't like
'cause
that.
one of them is an expert from within the field that they are part of, and the other one is an expert from without the field. It's just slightly different.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you were, for the sake of argument, investigating Scientology, and you were intrigued by Scientology to the point where you studied every one of their doctrines, every bit of their psychological brainwashing, every aspect of them, you would become a Scientology expert. And then when the reporter says, well, how long have you been a Scientologist? So I'm not a Scientologist. Were you joking? I've just gone through all of the nutty nonsense. You think I'm a Scientologist? No, I'm a Scientology expert. There's a big difference. Now, I'm not suggesting I am. I'm just using it as an example.
Can you
Right.
share what's
But
going
then,
on? Go on, John.
I was going to say, but then again, the leaders of that church could be considered Scientology experts as well.
Correct.
So
Well, you'd expect them to be.
it's
I would expect them to be. But go on.
well, it's just an interesting distinction because that's kind of what position we're finding ourselves in, and that's probably one of the reasons that the anti-flat earthers and ballers don't want anything to do with us anymore.
No, not really. Just think of a male gynecologist.
I have to identify something before I do that.
You can easily be an expert in something that you, in that instance, physically cannot do.
What do you mean?
I mean, you can't push a baby out of your dick, but you can be a gynecologist and be male.
Got it. I got it. Yeah.
Right.
You can be an expert in that which you examine or repair, but you ain't got one yourself.
My mechanic, for an example, right? I've known this guy for ages, and I just didn't use his garage. So he was a friend of a friend, and he'd be there at my mate's house, and I'd chat with him in passing when he was on his way out or whatever. Anyway, after a time, I figured out he worked at a garage, started using the garage, and we now shoot the shit about cars. Great. One day, I asked him what he drove. Oh, I don't drive. Oh, why not? I haven't got a license. What do you mean you haven't got a license? I've watched you drive my car. Oh, yeah, I'll drive the cars around the lot and put them in the position so I can change and service the oil and do all the things I do to the cars, but I haven't actually got a license. This is a fully grown, mature male adult without a driving license who works in a garage, so he can fully strip the car. He knows every inch of it inside out. Far more knowledgeable about cars than I am, but he doesn't drive. Well, in the same way as an expert in Scientology, or us, who are experts in heliocentrism, don't partake in heliocentrism. Doesn't mean we don't know all about it. We do.
Well, back to the Scientology example, though. The experts in Scientology who are not Scientologists, I bet you that members of that religion steer clear of those people as much as they possibly can.
I don't follow. Say that again.
I don't either.
Well, the members of the church, because this guy is such an expert and knows how their inner workings so well, they would be intimidated, embarrassed, and probably hate the expert who is not one of them.
Oh, I got what you're saying. I got what you're
absolutely.
saying, like ballers.
Oh, sorry, just to confirm, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Scientology is the perfect example of that, especially in the modern age where you've got YouTube. So ex-Scientologists who are experts in Scientology and the inner workings of the social and economic aspects of the church, not the religion, will come forth as experts in the Church of Scientology. They'll also be potentially experts in the religion itself, but that isn't the point. The point is that they're ex-members who know the inner workings and the brainwashing. Now, if you're an expert in that, you're not going to be wanting any association with that if you're a member of the church or a priest in the church, are you? In fact, you're going to want to excommunicate these people. Anyway, because we've talked about it so much, I might as well promote a particular Scientologist, ex-Scientologist expert, right? Which is, the channel name is Growing Up in Scientology. Now, I don't actually know how to say his name because with every intro, he takes like a Saturday Night Live skit or something where there's a substitute teacher who gets all the kids' names wrong. And he gets to what I would call Aaron. Some people say Aaron, but he pronounces, the substitute teacher pronounces it Aaron because he doesn't know how to read English names. He's a black teacher. So he's like, hey, Aaron, are you here? Hey, Aaron. And the kid's like, it's Aaron or something like that. But I don't know the videographer's actual pronunciation of what I would say Aaron or Aaron, depending on where you're from. Anyway, Growing Up in Scientology is the channel. He's an ex-Scientologist. He's currently covering the Danny Masterson trial, which probably most people are totally unaware this is even going on. But we're talking about a guy who, I've got to be careful in my own language now on the YouTube algorithmic, Susan will, yeet me off the platform if I'm not careful with the words I use. But I'm not so well versed in dealing with legal things on YouTube that I know how careful to be with my words. So I'm just going to have to be vague. Anyway, he's covering Danny Masterson allegedly doing nasty things to girls. Let's just say that. And there's a whole lineup of them, Jane Doe's one after the next, talking about the A-word thing that nasty men do to girls in this instance. So that's the accusations. Fascinating, and it's not televised, and he's going into the trial day in, day out, taking his notes, coming out and doing his thing on it. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that it was Scientology, it would just be interesting. And that's true with any good YouTuber, right? Any good YouTuber is going to take their subject matter and expand it out into something that's universally interesting to a passerby. And in this instance, I was almost a passerby when I came across his channel. And he just covers interesting stuff. So shout out to you, Aaron, however you pronounce your name. Aaron, I'm going to call you, as that's how you introduce yourself in every video. Aaron. Anyway, check him out, Growing Up in Scientology.
Nathan, that's a commercial in the States.
Aaron.
Aaron. Yeah, he does it with all the kids in the class. It's hysterical.
It's what? Oh, so you know the skit?
Yeah, it's a commercial in the States.
A commercial? Ah, I see. Commercial for what?
I forgot what it's for, but he goes through all of that. He says all the names wrong.
Yeah,
He says Aaron, and the kids answer back, it's Aaron. It's like, oh, you want to be that way? Okay. It's a black teacher, right?
That's it. You've got it. Exactly. He rounds out, he starts up his live streams with that little skit. And then even says Aaron here, laughs, because he obviously still finds it amusing, even though he's heard it probably 100 times. But I do. I chuckle every time I hear it, so it's still a good intro. Anyway, enough about Growing Up in Scientology. Hopefully someone will stick it. There we go. Goldie's done it. Thank you very much, Goldie. Right on time. It's Growing Up in Scientology YouTube channel with a link. Go and check him out. Go and subscribe. Even if you're not necessarily interested in Scientology, and for me it's a little aside, a little, I don't want to call it a pet project, because I've got no vested interest in it particularly, other than it's interesting because it parallels heliocentrism in the offshoot that is a heliocentric offshoot. Scientology is just heliocentrism. It's just slightly repackaged. But anyway, other than that, I've got no interest. But other than some of the channels that I've come across, including, or mostly Growing Up in Scientology, actually, are just good channels. Anyway, Godzilla37, shout out to you for the super chat. Are we still live? Bloody hope so. I don't work for YouTube, nor do I know anything about programming, but I'm an expert super chatter, just the same. Thank you for the super chat. You are an expert super chatter. I really appreciate the financial support. Thank you very much indeed for hitting it.
Can I bring another perspective to this talk?
No, we must talk about Growing Up in Scientology and nothing else. Good.
Well, the subject matter expert and not being in that subject, but you can be a subject matter expert about that subject. So the last two people that I had engaged in the debate of do we live on a sphere or is it flat, realized through the language I used that I knew what I was talking about, but it came across to them as arrogance. And so they both said to me, you're pretty arrogant right now. And I said, hang on. If I'm arrogant, I don't want to be. But if I'm a subject matter expert, because for the last 6 years or so, I've been on a panel 5 days a week for 2-3 hour shows concerning physics and geometry and the nature of our reality. And I've seen the arguments, heard the lies, and I'm able to sit here and give you a short summary of what's going on. And I come across as confident. Why would you call me arrogant? You see where I'm going with this? This is how they perceive us, because we are
shown to be wrong.
Subject matter experts.
Did I release it or did I just put it out to members? I did a video today. I can't remember if I actually released it today. And it was taken from a short clip that I'd taken from one of the live shows, like all of them. But it was What's Up with Gravity? Did anybody catch that? Basically, a condensed version of the 10-minute clip that I did. So sometimes I'll watch a clip back, and the fact that I'm watching it back at all tells me it's a good clip. But several people have commented in videos recently when I've done a 2-minute video, thanks for this short clip, or this is really shareable, great, or words to that effect, you know. And like I said, there's been several of them. So I thought, okay, I like this clip. It's a fundy coming in, denying that he's even claiming a globe when he's asking about gravity being assumed to be the force of down always. We're contradicting him, and he doesn't like it. So he goes to, well, you're being aggressive when I'm being assertive and saying, no, you're not going to move on until you concede, because otherwise, and I justify it later in the video, this is in the longer clip, because you'll just circle jerk back to gravity's an always down force in effect on an Earth that's turning and sphere-shaped, because you haven't acknowledged how we've overcome that. Now, knowing from, 5 years of experience, that unless you get them to concede, that will be the turn of events that befalls you if you don't get them to concede. They'll just circle jerk back to, well, obviously, we haven't moved away from the fact that all things move to the centre of Earth with the force of gravity, even though you debunked it. I didn't acknowledge it. I went, yeah, and started asking you questions. Therefore, we've still got a downward force, even though you've debunked it. I just didn't acknowledge it. So you go on.
You weren't fair with him.
But I wasn't, but that was where I was going. He told me I was getting aggressive. And now he's interrupted by about fifth time at that point. I'm like, I'm not being aggressive. I'm just not letting you move on. Now, does that mean I've got to stop you mid-sentence when you move on and try to weasel out of this? Yeah, it does. But that's not the same as just interrupting the coherent and concise demolition of your assertion that we can name things that don't really happen. Gravity. Now, him not liking that isn't me being aggressive when they don't like the outcome of what they've postulated. In that case, can we name this always down, always moving to the centre of Earth gravity? No, we can't. It doesn't always happen. Well, no. Let's just ask a new question rather than move on and concede. We'll be met with, you're being aggressive with me because I don't like the outcome of what's happened and you're not letting me accept it and move on without accepting it.
You triggered him when you called him a heliocentrist. He was a flat earther with a downward bias, which it's easy to get them confused.
What?
No. He said
go
gravity.
Down, go boom, boom, flat earther.
Careful.
What?
He said gravity.
He did.
Right.
He
Well,
said,
that's
can't we just
heliocentric.
call everything falling down gravity?
Yeah, that's heliocentric, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's expressing the downward bias. He denied being a heliocentrist.
He didn't. He said he hadn't claimed it. He didn't deny it. I pointed out that he didn't need to, i.e., you don't need to say you're claiming this on behalf of a spinning ball in a vacuum. It automatically is when you drop your bottle and say things move to the centre of Earth. Well, okay, that incorrect assertion is a direct connection to heliocentric belief. Now, the fact that we have, and I'm highlighting this to our own members at the moment, been put in a position to offer up a straw man for them to debunk as a false dichotomy, doesn't mean we have any necessary claim to make. So when, even if it's by a stereotyping fallacy, someone assumes that I've got an alternative to offer up when gravity's offered, it's like the only person that requires a positive assertion in this regard is the heliocentrists. I don't care what any other model might have a downward bias that's been foisted upon them by heliocentrists to defend. We don't need to defend this. There's no claim to be had. We don't need a downward force. There's no need for it. They need it to stop them flying off a ball in space. Now, if you've got an alternative, good for you, but I'm not going to defend it. And when someone says gravity, I'm going to tell them that's because heliocentrists need one. They're the only one with a requirement for a positive claim in this regard. Unless you can correct me and say, no, the concavers also need one. It's like, wouldn't they have centrifugal force spinning them to the outside of their spinning ball, concave in nature? Yes, they would. So therefore, not gravity either. They might relabel centrifugal force as gravity, but it's not necessary. Nobody's got a necessary force of down to hold them to anything except for ballers. Just don't be fooled.
I agree with that.
All flat earthers really need is a density disequilibrium force, and that all only works within a closed system.
Need for what? Excuse me, Arwin. What do we need this for, pray tell? For what claim? What am I backing it up with? Why do I need to make that assertion? To prove what?
To describe how passive displacement works.
Describe it for what purpose?
To make a model?
Model of what? What's occurring for me to need to disclaim how it works? There isn't anything.
Things going down and going up.
Those
different
two things are in
elements.
opposition, Arwin.
Yes, that's why we only need a disequilibrium force based on density.
You don't need to explain this. There's no positive assertion to back with this explanation, Arwin. The only person that has a positive explanation needed are people who need to explain why you're not flying off a spinning ball. Beyond flying off a spinning ball, we don't have any need to explain it. None.
And that's where the
I still
Ethereum.
like to, though. I mean, we figured it out. Density, like even specific gravity, already describes relative density. Just presupposes there's gravity to
I've
cause
just
it.
picked up on what you're doing. You're taking offence because something that is scientifically validated, useful, empirically described, concise, argued over, and in opposition to a positive claim of gravity is essentially being decried by me in these words, right, Arwin? And you've put a lot of work in. And I don't decry any of the validity that's been offered. Some of it is empirical in nature, scientific in nature, right? I'm not decrying
But I
any of
get
that.
it, though. In
I'm just-
opposition to a Glober's claim for gravity, it's unnecessary. Because
Exactly.
we don't need to make a claim. I get that part. Sure.
Right, but that's the bit I want to stress. A lot of people at the moment are going, what do you think about the upward accelerating Earth? Oh, I couldn't care less. Why? Well, it's inconsequential. It's just some positive claim that Dell, in this instance, has conjured that he's now got to defend. Well, if he wants to do that, that's his bag. Okay. I mean, I could
more
invent a
like a
sideways Earth
presupposition.
and start defending it, couldn't I? But why would
He's
I
got
do
an
that?
Experiment.
It's
Yeah,
more
I-
like a presupposition. I mean, he should know that it's a presupposition. You can't
Are we?
manipulate the entire state of the realm like that.
Doesn't matter. He's got an experiment. He threw a bottle out the window.
No,
It's not an
no.
experiment.
Tell me why everything falls down then.
It doesn't.
That's always the response we keep getting, Arwen. And the thing is, they're wanting us to explain a phenomenon that we don't observe.
Well, hold on.
Well,
They
why
say
the-
why does
another,
it go
explain-
another question would be why the density axis? Why do less dense things go up and more dense things go down, right? But it's pointless. It's all going to lead to a presupposition that you can't prove or disprove. Because you can't very manipulate what is supposedly causing this universal effect.
I was asked by Rachie, how come it doesn't go up or to the left or to the right? Why does it still go down?
It's not your job to explain that. You don't have to know what the moon is to know the earth is flat. You don't have to know why there's things going up, down, and remaining neutral to know that not everything's going down. Why is that so hard?
Because
It's
we've been deceived into believing that we have to take a contrapositive position because they have a claim about it, like with the horizon. Well, how do you explain the horizon? I don't have any claim about it. Yeah, but I claim boats are falling over it. That's nice. They're not. Well, why do you explain it? I don't require an explanation for what the horizon is. Well, what about why you explain why we're not flying off a spinning water ball? I'm not on a spinning water ball, so I have no necessity to explain why I'm not flying off one. Yeah, but I had one, and it failed. Now you give me an explanation. I don't need to. There's no positive claim being made for me to make a defense of.
When you're saying everything is RDD and someone comes along and shows you that it's not only RDD, you have to explain it. What do you mean?
That's your
Well,
fault.
that's their bag.
That's your fault at that moment.
Yeah, that's your problem. Why are you claiming relative density disequilibrium in defense of what positive assertion that proves we're on a flat plane or disproves another positive assertion that you're working against? If there isn't one, so for the sake of argument, you're up in Scotland, you're in a shed, you're thinking about how you can prove something, and then you start making claims about it. Okay? Well, you're not defending against a heliocentrism, a claim that you're supposed to be flying off, but you're not because of gravity. You're just making up positive claims for yourself to defend. Well, that's very useful if you're a heliocentrist and you want to argue against Dell's flying up Earth or relative density disequilibrium, because you can put it in opposition to gravity. But at the point that you made that claim, at the point that you started disseminating to an audience what relative density disequilibrium was or wasn't, or how it was valid, why were you doing that? For what purpose? What were you trying to prove? I was just trying to explain how it happens. How what happens? How all things go down? They don't. Well, how some things go down and some things go up. Why? Who cares?
Then why did it have to do the
conversation-
experiment then?
The point is if you're only gonna say like this is why your argument it doesn't exist, things also go up, and you don't give a pointer as to something that really happens, which is relative density, right? If you don't give a pointer at it, then you don't have a claim, you don't need to defend it. But I mean, it's not going to make much for a conversation then. It's not going to be good listening to it.
Don't care. Someone comes along and says, there's a force of gravity that holds me to the earth. All right, what to describe this force? Well, it's everything going down. It's the reason when I drop an apple, it hits the ground. All right, so you're asserting that all things move towards the centre of Earth with this force of gravity. Absolutely correct, says your opponent. What about things that go up? Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh, yeah, the clouds and helium balloons and stuff. Yeah, they're not going towards the centre of mass of Earth even though they've got mass. So mass isn't attracting mass. Okay, well, how do you explain things going down? They don't just go down. Didn't you not listen to what I just said? Well, how do you explain it? There's nothing to explain. Your claim that all things go down for an explanation of why you're not flying off a ball is bunk. Now, beyond that, that's the end of my involvement.
In a vacuum chamber,
Your
things go
straw man
down.
version of a baller is not good enough. You're tintillating my ball win senses here, because they would definitely just say no, things go up, buoyancy, right? The lighter things just float on top of it.
Well,
That's
then they're
where
not going
really
down.
go.
Well, that's the end of their argument. At the point they say, oh, yeah, like the other guy. Oh, yeah, things go up. What about the oil going up in the water? Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, things go up. Okay. So when you say, why would we not name the force of all things going down like the bottle I've dropped, gravity, you've already explained to me why you wouldn't do that because you've described things going up then.
Yeah, but a good baller would say you're straw manning me. Yeah, the globe doesn't claim all things go down. It's just things with the most mass will go down first. And things with less mass will be displaced upwards in relation to those things with more mass. And that's buoyancy. And that's how it's modeled out. And then on top of it, there's no container wall. It's just, there's just nothing more to sit on it like it were a liquid. Right? That's where they're going to argue it towards. But a good baller would say, no, things do also go up. And then they just float on top.
They said,
What's
why in a
that?
vacuum chamber do things still go down? Why don't they go up or to the left or to the right?
Again, are you asking
Why
that as,
still down?
are you asking as a flat earther? Because who cares? I appreciate, if you're listening to this going, hang on a second, you give Brian praise when he talks about explaining these arguments. Yes, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that we shouldn't understand this, so you could overcome the argument were you pushed into a corner to do it, or perceived to be dismissive because you don't. I get it. What I'm trying to disseminate to the audience is understand the complexity of the argument at its base level, which is to say, positive assertion has the burden of proof on the claimant. Now, if the positive assertion is there's a force of down because we're on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum, then that's the claimant's claim of a ball in a vacuum that needs an apology made for it in the form of gravity. Now, if you're not making the claim of a spinning water ball, you don't have the apologetics necessary for gravity. Once you overcome gravity, if you're a flat earther, there's nothing to explain because there's no apology for why I'm not flying off a flat surface. There's no necessity to do that. That needs stressing.
I was going to congratulate Arwen in his description of what's happening using mass. He was actually thinking of density, but he said mass for argument's sake.
Yeah,
It was really
I'm
clever.
doing it as a baller, right? So you got to use the right lingo then.
I heard him. I just didn't bite. I was on my way to making my example, so Arwen got essentially disregarded. One ear in the other.
Well, I did.
I heard
I
him say
did.
mass.
Well, I did. I said, "What's mass?" And then I was like, "Oh man, I bit on it. Dang it." So yeah,
You
good
gotta
job. Owen.
quickly sneak it through. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
If ballers
It's
were
all about
sensible,
sneaking through the right words and then making sure that you don't pick up on them, so everybody just digests it all.
yeah,
You ever
but
read the comments in Dell's video?
I was just
You
going to
think you
praise
should
Arwin
read the
first
comments.
before we do. Yeah, if you're a smart baller, pay attention to what Arwin does. The way Arwin is subtly clever with his words, the way he substitutes one word for another without you noticing, slips it in early, all of the things that Rumpus did, but better. Arwin's better at it. Now, while Rumpus used to go on the circuit essentially training anti-flat earthers on how to be anti-flat earthers, Arwin's better than him. He's more subtle, he's more amiable, he gets stroppy in the right places, he rage quits at the right moment, leaves it a little bit later than you might expect when he's got the anger level nice and high, so it's justifiable. He does everything perfectly. As an anti-flat earther, Arwin would be, other than up against us, unstoppable. He could go out on the circuit and annihilate almost anybody who was debating this subject on the flat earth side. He could just win with his hands closed, with his hands behind his back and his eyes closed. Anyway, enough smoke up Arwen's ass.
No,
Can I
I
just
would
say
win
that
also here, by the
baller
way.
is
You guys, look, Flat Earth Debate is not immune to Baldwin, okay? He rules all.
No, you don't.
I'm just holding back.
Clearly, we blow
That's
too
that
much smoke.
trekker in you. That's that trekker in you, Arwen.
I'm like
You
fighting.
can't stop
all
the
that.
cloak leaf. You can't stop it.
Can I just say
Got
about
his hand
baller
up.
you're referring to? He was in the Ever After show last week, and he was in here for hours. We were going back and forth with him through Narnia, and he eventually conceded that he'd never even heard of the Black Swan argument. He thought that we all ascribed to a disc model. So he was actually very polite towards the end, and he conceded everything, even his own geometry.
Who are you talking
Wait,
about?
who's this?
And then
Who
he
you
left
talking
on
about?
good terms.
Who are you talking about?
The gravity guy you were referring to last week.
Oh, the guy
Oh,
who
He was
said
just
to the
very
chat to
naive to
call it
all the
gravity,
arguments. It was
right?
his first time at the show.
Okay. Well, naive or otherwise, it doesn't alter the way you're brainwashed as a heliocentrist. And once you've stumbled down the hill and made your way into this discussion, you're still going to get the same treatment. It doesn't matter if you're green. You know, if you can't concede that or describe what you claim is happening at all, it's like, well, what is that we're going to call gravity? You can give us an answer. And when push came to shove, he's like, yeah, well, all things go down. In other words, made the circle jerk reassertion. So you're saying you guys entertained him for a couple of hours. Tell us all about it. I know you just did, but I cut you off. But continue if you don't mind.
Would you mind Righteous or Rayleigh? Because I'm at work.
My bad, Sensual. Fair enough. We got the general gist, I think.
Nathan, Divergent put a text in chat. Hey, the guy you're talking about is trying to join Discord, but he had some trouble. So after you were done with the show, then what he's saying now happened. But it'd be good to get the whole story.
There's one gap on the live stream. 17. I don't know why it keeps going up. There should be about 10 people in the live stream chat. It's up to about 18 now. Anyway. Yeah, there's a gap there if you wanted to join.
Come on in, Mr. Polite.
Yeah, but don't miss what he said. See, they're coming in hot to trot on their position. Once he understood, which meant dialogue had to take place, so you can't be attacking each other or else someone's going to quit the show and leave, and you'd never get to the point of him finally saying, you know what, I've never seen the Black Swan, and oh, you don't have a disc model. And so it takes time for their scales to come off their eyes. And sometimes, Nathan, when they come in, you think they're an anti-flat earther when they're just deceived, and you're just strong on them. But they're not ready to concede yet because they don't have all the material in front of them that we have seen. So then the anti-flat earthers have all the material. They're the ones that you need to be strong on.
Hey, if
These
they
other
bought
people-
that, sorry, I thought you were done. If they bought that line in Discord, that's on them. I don't believe he's never seen the Black Swan.
Yeah, I
Okay,
like
Neil,
it.
there's
This is-
somebody. There's
this is
somebody who hasn't.
This is a rehab clinic. Now, I appreciate that some people walk into the rehab clinic with just a little bit of crack. They're not quite ready to give up the crack. Bang! You're not taking crack here. Get away from here with your crack. Get out the door, sod off, or come back clean. You don't want to get clean. You want to keep a little bit of it in your system. Tough luck. That's not what this rehab clinic's about.
This is a rehab clinic. I thought it was a show on physics and geometry and the nature of our reality.
Metaphorically, in this scenario, for that guy, we're a rehab clinic.
Well, I find
Sounds
it
more like an
interesting.
institution.
We're offering globe rehabilitation. That's why I call it a rehab clinic. You're being rehabilitated from the globe brainwashing.
How can you concede to the black swan and still be a heliocentrist? But I'm interested to hear how that's even possible.
Maybe I can put it out for after the fact when this gets published. I'll ask a member of the audience just at random. I don't know, someone we know. Ruhif! Maybe you could let us know. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, Rufy? How'd you do that?
Some people are not willing to give up their crack yet.
He's still asking Adam because he's not willing to give it up, right? Adam said he's asking him three same questions each time. Adam keeps answering the questions and he keeps coming back.
Let's ask Adam. Should it be easier on the crackheads, as 10th man wants? Like Jesus.
No, I didn't
more
say
empathy.
that. Don't put words in my mouth.
No. You just got to stay true with them. Stay consistent with the crackheads, unfortunately. Because this is where they're at. Ruthie's trying to rephrase questions upside down because he can't cope with the black swan. It's breaking him. There we go, look. See, yeah, the other day, look, you say number one is false, so you did distance to the horizon calculations. Remember, you're ignoring refraction for now. Are you saying 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is not the correct formula? Bye, Black Swan, he writes. See, he's killing him. He can't reconcile the refraction, the formula that relates to his ball, and now it hurts him so much that he's spending time trying to get rid of the Black Swan analogy. It's too difficult to deal with, and he tries to force the analogy on me to make me adopt this ball model, to make it my claim.
That was from 2020. The P statement is a straw man. Oh, so you think if Earth is a sphere radius 3959 is my claim that I'm straw manning you with? No, that's actually the ball maths. It's your claim. It's the one that you want to get away from desperately and put on Adam as his claim because it failed, right? The tangent point that you're trying to bend? Yeah, that's based on your maths, but it's what, our claim and our straw man? Yeah, we've heard it all before.
Yeah, that's the crackhead saying, it's not me, it's the dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
You misquoted me, by the way, Nathan.
Who did?
You.
Okay.
You took what I said and changed it from what I intentionally was trying to say. Now, when they come on the show, I want to find out if they're a crackhead, so then we could treat them the way you do, or are they people who don't know enough but have believed the lie, and then so it's perfect time to ask a nice low desire question at this point.
Right.
Look,
Why would they be in the
how
methadone clinic if they're not a smackhead?
well, hang on. Let me finish.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you're going to let me finish or not? Okay. So, hey, listen, I don't know if you're familiar with this channel and what we do here, but are you a sphere believer? Yeah. You believe in the R value? Yeah. You believe in gravity? Yeah. Okay, great. If we can prove that it's not true, what would you do? Now, that's the question that now tells me how to treat them. If they say, well, if you can prove to me, then I guess I'll have to change my mind because I want to be driven by the evidence. I say, great, then let's start with the black swan. Do you know that argument? Okay, now that's a different guy to me if he says that. If he says no, then treat him like a crackhead.
But the place where we are because of the censorship or the algorithm, sorry, not censorship, they're not stopping us, but because of the algorithm, you would have to find out about us from anti-flat earthers discussing us.
Correct.
That's fine. That's fine. But that's still not something that I want to jump to until I ask him that question. If I could show you what you've been taught since birth is a lie, would you thank me, or would you still, after I prove it's a lie, still remain a crackhead? I just want to know that, because I'm about to invest energy and time away from my dog, my family, with you. I just want to know if it's worth my time.
No, I understand asking for the standard of evidence for an individual you're about to engage in conversation with.
That's
But
it.
Nathan's saying that we already know they're not your typical baller because they're looking into this subject, and the only way that they found us is they went and watched an anti-flat earther, and that's what's made them aware of us. So they've had to been in the subject for some amount of time.
Right, but they watch the opposition crackhead anti-flat earther, then they come to our show, but they're not as skilled at this point as the person they watched. And they're thinking they can come here with a little bit of anti-flat earth rhetoric and take us on. And when they come, it's like, you know, the guy who knows it, the anti-flat earther, he won't come here, right? Ruth won't come here. But all the people who get bits and pieces of Ruth come here, and then they get demolished.
Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, the crack dealer doesn't go into, out and try to recruit people to smoke crack. He gets people high on crack, and they do that.
And metaphorically, as we're live to an audience, the crack analogy or the crackhead analogy is your crackhead, by analogy, is a globe believer, and the crack is the globe lie. Just in case anybody's unclear about the analogy.
Right. Exactly. So the whole point is, this is more of me making sure I spend my time in a quality manner. It's not so much I'm interested in converting anybody. It's like, okay, you want to talk about it? Let's find out if you're even ready to listen. Meaning, if you prove me wrong, I'll change. If I prove you wrong, you'll change. You accept that right off the bat. No. I'll say, good. Have a good day. Get out of here.
Can I add something to what Adam was saying earlier concerning Rohith? It's not about Rohith specifically, but it's about the ballers. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
By the way.
Ryan.
Yeah, I'm being accused of strawmanning them with the over 6 hour demonstrations and the maths that I'm using. I'm accused of strawmanning them. That's not the ball claim. They just claim refraction. That's what one of them told me. I think the other one told me.
Oh, sorry, just for clarity, they just claim refraction. It's always refraction. They've always only claimed refraction. Obviously, it's not no Atmo day, therefore you've not taken into consideration refraction. Is that correct?
Yeah, while I'm detailing over 6 hour, which is what they claim to be refraction.
Okay.
That's the point, Brian, isn't it? If you describe anything as over 6 hour, you are by definition invoking refraction.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what it is. I mean, you see the demonstrations I do, and I use the maths. And Adam, your equation, one guy out there called Petey, right? Listen to this. This guy argued, when I first brought out your equation, he didn't know what it was. It took him several hours, if not more, maybe the next day, before he figured out what your equation was and how it worked. And he was saying it was wrong until he found out how it worked and what it was. And then he went, oh, I still have stuff to learn, he said to me, something like that, right? I'm only learning this kind of stuff. Now, this guy's maths is pretty good. It's a lot better than mine. And compared to me, it's pretty good. I don't know if it's pretty good compared to other people, but compared to me, it's pretty good. And then a couple of weeks ago, he came back saying that your equation was wrong, the 2640, right? And I said, no. I said, well, if you're saying it's wrong, then you produce the equation that I can use all the time when I want to see how big of an effective radius your ball is going to have, right? And he would not come back with it. So he's been saying that Adam's equation is wrong for a couple of weeks now, and he won't come back with anything, right, this guy, right? With an equation instead of it.
Right?
Yeah.
That was wrong. It's been out there for 2-3 years. If that was wrong, Roofy would have jumped on it. Lots of people would have jumped on it. It's not wrong. because I checked it.
No, it's not.
And
No, that's what I said to him.
yeah, and it's derived. It's look, ultimately it's a rearrangement of the distance to the horizon formula. So all I've done is enable you to get your answer to give you an R value, but it's the same derivation, or it's made from that same derivation. But and seriously though, if that's all they've got, who gives a shit whether my equation was right or wrong? Do you know what I mean? If that's the argument you're winning, good luck, son.
That's
Well,
a simple
here's the
algebra.
thing
What
about
Adam
it.
did, Bob.
Sorry, John.
I just said it was simple algebra what Adam did. Like what is wrong with doing algebra?
No, nothing. But the problem is that because what they need to do now is attack anything. And I said it to this guy. I said, ask Ruhif if it's wrong. I said it to him several weeks ago, and he went quiet because he knows that Ruhif's got better maths than him, and Ruhif would say whether it's right or wrong. And Ruhif publicly or even privately couldn't say that it's wrong because it's not correct. What's wrong is that it's so correct, Adam. This is the problem. It's so correct that when I use it and show the audience the maths, right, and then show them a working movable diagram with GeoGebra, it makes the ball look absolutely ridiculous. So ridiculous that this same guy, this PT guy, actually, he wasn't the only one, but he made a good long comment to me about a week or so ago. It was a week ago, exactly, actually, asking me to go easy on the ball, to present it in a better light, that I could present what I'm presenting in this other way, and it makes it look better.
Oh.
He gave me suggestions, and I said, I won't be doing anything. I'm presenting it exactly as it's supposed to be presented. And now I'm straw manning. You're just straw manning. We don't claim any of these things. It's all a straw man. It's like, no, that is your claim. And to the point where I made a video last night, right? This is the crux of it. Right? I'll finish after this. People are enough of listening to me at this stage. I made a video last night off of the back of them claiming that I'm straw manning them, and I used Metabunk, right? And I showed I actually converted miles to feet in the wrong way, in the way you convert feet to inches. I mixed myself up somehow, and I just multiplied by 12, right? But I ended up with over 30 million feet. And for 30 million feet, right, of over 30 million feet of a radius, an effective radius, they needed to have minus what would be 5.2 Fahrenheit, minus 15 degrees almost Celsius temperatures. And they needed to have pressure, PSI of would be 9 atmospheres, which would be almost 133 PSI. And then it was pointed out to me, right, by the same baller in the comments, that I mixed up my maths. So it shouldn't have been 30. So for 30 million feet of a radius, they needed 132 or 133 psi to be in reality, while it's also minus 15 degrees for BLMSB when he took that 1 foot observation to 31 miles away. Sorry, that was the one I worked off. So for on that day when BLMSB was 1 foot off the sand or 1 foot off the ocean, right, looking at an horizon 31 miles away back in 2021, needed to be minus 15 degrees Celsius, and it needed to be 133 psi, not the average 14.7 that is at sea level, right? And it turns out that it shouldn't have been 30 million feet of a radius. It should have been, and I knew something was not right, and I couldn't. I knew there was something niggling at me. Should have been 13 billion. So what would they need for that? And I used Metabunk to show this. So how can I be strawmanning them when I can show exactly the maths and how it matches Metabunk and how it matches everything they do? It's your maths. It's their maths. Adam's equation is correct. Nothing is wrong other than my mistake with the feet, and that only makes it way worse for them. Nothing's wrong.
What's interesting is when you said that about the way you're presenting it makes you could show it in a better way. In the comments, I seen a guy because someone said we're not on a spinning magical spinning space ball in a sky vacuum. And the guy said, well, of course it sounds stupid when you say it that way. You know, like,
Be nice to them.
you see what I'm saying? Like, if you actually point out how ridiculous their claim is, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. And when I show it with GeoGebra, it's really embarrassing for them because anyone can look at it and go, "What?" Because I can show the difference in what they need as an effective circumference and how their globe. They don't actually have a globe or a circle. They have an arc length, according to them. You see, that's the thing about it. This is why I always say their globe is just an arc length because their claim is that the horizon is always refracted. That means you're only ever referencing an arc length of a circle. If that's the case.
A horizontal distance of an arc length. It's insane, isn't
it? Yeah. Because the 0.097 is just a distance. I can calculate that horizontally. And I've shown it being calculated horizontally and used horizontally with dip corrections. Can't remember where the table came from now, but I think it was from an Indian navigator. But there's a dip correction table where there's a mathematical horizon and horizontal distance to this mathematical horizon. But it's still horizontal.
Yeah, level kind of give it away, didn't it? Sea level.
Yeah, yeah. So they just have a level horizontal distance. I mean, they thought that 0.097 was going to be was a curve. It's a distance. Doesn't matter. You don't have to have a curve.
Well, for it to be curving is contradictory to getting angles, you know, because if level is curving, then you run into the curved adjacent problem, you know? So
exactly.
They're running into brick walls every way they turn, pretty much.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. And we're all misrepresenting them. We're misrepresenting them when we're detailing exactly what it is. What?
How are we misrepresenting them?
Because we're showing their globe in its true light. That's why. So we're not
misrepresenting them, are we? All we did was uncover, and thanks to Rufy, because he admitted it to me, what they were doing mathematically to resolve for refraction. And the refraction they had to resolve for was to make it fit reality. So the amount of refraction, the amount of non-curve, i.e. refraction they have to apply, depends on what the picture looks like that day. Hence the purpose of the formula. Yeah, it's tongue in cheek, but realistically, that's why it hurts them, because it underpins the fundamentals of their claim. On a clear day, we're on a bigger ball because I can see further. Therefore, the distance to that horizon means that R value has increased. Not my claim, it's theirs. Now, they purport that. That's how they do it. They don't bend light. They increase the size of the ball. That's how they resolve mathematically. And that's why you never end up, because it's not no Atmo day, 6/6R. Yeah, it's never ever that. That's why it's always, as Brian says, a minimum of 7/6R. And it's never that. It's always more than that when you look at reality. That's why it hurts.
That's why you got to get to the end of Danny Faulkner's video, because he does that and he does not even realize what he's doing.
No, you're giving them 7/6R. Where'd they get the R from? And then define refraction for me, please.
Well, that's the point. They're changing the R. The R they've cherished to allow them to match reality. That this is what the formula's taking the mick out of.
Formula's nonsense.
Yeah, but
their over 6R QE is their over 6R claim, right? That there's always at least 7/6R is the black swan.
Well, there's no 6R. There's nothing R.
Yeah, but this is the point. There is no R because every horizon has to be refracted. That is their claim. All horizons are refracted, so there is no
cares
R.
So they're stuck in the Arwinian paradox.
Who
That's
cares what their claim is? Their claim is nonsensical gibberish. First, they have to come up with the R and then define refraction. Then we can move on from there.
No,
if they want to go that route.
No, they don't.
Adam.
No, because this is the point.
No.
No,
Hear
this is
him
No,
out.
they don't.
Hold on, Kiwi.
No, they don't.
Hold on. Just hear out Adam.
What
Go
the
ahead.
fuck?
No swearing, please. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh,
No,
God.
they don't do that. This is the point. What they do is
No,
they
no,
look
no,
at
no. I don't care what you're missing it.
You're
I
missing
don't
it, Kiwi.
care what they
Okay,
do.
stop. Everyone stop. Right. Kiwi, can you explain what they're missing? And then once you have, please let Adam just make his point. Go
They're
ahead,
letting
Kiwi.
them beg the question till the cows come home. So we're going to assume R, and then we're going to assume a fraction that they don't know. Fuck. I'm sorry. Let's just go to gravity. So I'm going to assume their claim of invisible hyenas and 2 pi to the century gold. And I'm going to present a formula that debunks their 2 pi to the century gold and the invisible hyenas. So that's their claim. Let me go ahead and deal with that. No, you don't do that. Did I just enter Bizarro world? Yeah.
previously. I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with your critique where you want to chop it off. I'm just saying at this point now they no longer have an R value to work with. All they're going to do is take pre-stated R value and ignore it in a way, because they're then going to go to reality. They're going to say the horizon is the leading edge of a ball, and because of the position of the horizon, they're then going to have to recalculate using that formula the size of the ball they're on today. Now, the way in which they then express it is tongue-in-cheek as a 7/6 R, because that means it's bigger than R. And that's what we're doing. We're showing them that they don't have an R, and their R moves every single day based on the assumption that the horizon is the leading edge of the ball. And that's all we're attacking, that if you're going to make that statement and it's theirs, this is the implications mathematically. Look at where your R is today.
What R?
Exactly. The R that they're going to make up based on the assumption that the horizon is the physical leading edge of the ball.
I heard you the first time.
Given that assumption, they will recalculate a new R every single day.
So what?
Let me give an example, Kiwi.
Where'd they get R?
Nowhere.
give you
They
an
got
example of
it.
something.
They got it from the distance to the horizon on that day.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you're going to give them what?
right. It's the wobbly Earth.
So it's 39.59. Okay, we got that far. 39.59 because there's no takebacks.
No,
it's not.
Right. The 39.59.
No, it's not.
No. So let me explain. So the 39.59, all you're going to use that number for is to express your new R value as a fraction of 39.59, even though it's not. Hence, 7/6 R isn't 39.59, is it? It's 4,200 something. We've got
Wait a second. Where the fuck you give him? I don't know. Nathan,
Okay,
can you
Kiwi,
fucking
please.
explain it?
Please. Right,
give an
hold on.
example?
Everyone stop. We have got a live audience, so I've changed it to public. We're going out to the public. Please stop swearing. Please.
Oh, God.
The radius
I'll
is
stop.
15,836. The new radius is 15,836. According to
No, the new radius
Zeus.
is the problem. Hold on.
According to Zeus.
The new radius that they're. What are we talking about? New radius.
No, hang on. Let me give an example to QE that will make this makes more sense.
No,
You know when
it's not going to happen. Sorry.
You know when the ballers present to you BLMSB's other observation from a bit prior to the Black Swan observation, where it shows an horizon appearing to be in front of the islands, right?
Yeah, that Black Swan. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know the way you call that another Black Swan, right? They didn't realize, because they're fools, right? Now Mick West knew, but they didn't realize, and Rumpus possibly knew, but the rest of the fools didn't realize. I'm not saying I don't know about Ruhin, right? That what they were presenting was a refracted horizon, because the claim is within their model. Hang on, let me finish. The claim is within their model.
Horizons don't exist.
Hang
They don't know
on,
where
you're not.
reflection is.
You're not. Will you leave me finish? Their
Yeah, I'll
claim
let you put the
is that.
question for them. Sure, go ahead.
Hang on. Their claim is that their horizon is always refracted. That means this is why I jump on it and Adam jumps on it, because that means it was never geometric. There was never one time in history where that horizon, any horizon, was not a refracted horizon within their model. That means there was never a geometric horizon to use. They're literally mirroring the black swan, but they've without realizing it, repurposing it into their own model. Because if it was never geometric, if it's always refracted at least 7/6 that means there was never a geometric horizon to see. Ever.
Well, I already know that. What are you telling me that for?
Because I'm trying to point out why we and Adam are attacking this.
That's why I made the argument.
So the purpose.
That's not a reason to then go ahead and give them 7/6 or whatever R. That I'm not getting it. I'm sorry.
Right. Let me explain again.
The claim has changed. That's the point.
Please don't.
I'm gonna.
The claim has changed. This is what the guys have been trying to explain to you. It's not just 7/6R anymore. They've abandoned that, and now they're attempting to reformulate it. And it's the same old nonsense anti-flat Earth response that we've been getting. That's basically the communication here.
That really solved it. Thanks for your attention to detail. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's now 21/36, and the radius is 15,836, according to Zeus.
Little surreal that. The only purpose of it is to draw ridicule. For the fun, like I said, I'm happy to give them whatever R value that will come out of it, because this is their claim. Yeah,
that's where we differ.
Yeah, exactly. But the R values that come out of it, just with the black swan,
come out of what?
Come out of their pre-assumptions of the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. That's their claim. It's not ours. But we're happy to use that if that's what they're saying the horizon is. Now, with that fact on a ball stated, we can then extrapolate and point out to them because what they tend to think is, a little bit further doesn't mean a massive ball. But look at what the black swan does. We've got a 250,000 mile radius because of that. And that's why I'm happy to let them accept it, because once they confirm that horizon is the leading edge of the ball, it pins them to a geometry that becomes so nonsensical when you put it to them. And that's what Brian's been doing. Okay, you like your refraction, do you? Well, this is what it does. A, you're not calculating refraction, but B, look at
this is what refraction does.
Yeah,
just let him finish. Okay.
They're terrestrial refraction. Yeah, sorry for that misspeak. They're terrestrial.
Let him finish. Why should I let him finish? You just gave him refraction. What's refraction?
I misspoke.
Let the show happen, please.
I misspoke and I said refraction. I meant terrestrial refraction. So
that changes matters.
Yeah, I'm more than happy for them to take it and run with those numbers and embarrass themselves with the outcomes, as exemplified by the black swan. Because ultimately, then,
let them run with the invisible hyena.
Yeah,
something they haven't defined and they don't know what is. And let's just chase them down the fucking chase them down the begging the question fallacy trail.
No.
But when's it going to end?
No, it's not.
So they have to prove radius first.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It's 21/18.
All right, you're starting to sound a bit like Rain Man.
But don't they have to prove radius first?
247. 247.
No one's giving them a radius, Neil. That's the point. You don't understand, Neil. Me and Adam aren't giving them a radius. No, we're not doing that. We're not giving them refraction. We're taking what they're claiming and we're showing it mathematically and we're showing it in demonstration.
Okay.
To how ridiculous it is.
Right, because it's just a dead end trap for them. and they don't want to realize that. So it's like what I do sometimes, but even stronger with when I say like, oh yeah, how's gravity going to keep the gas to the ball when you could think of it as a weak force, right? It doesn't work even if you give them it. Like they're dead ended every time. So we can literally let them say, oh yeah, refraction. Oh really? Well, let's go with that. And then they go back and forth and back and forth, and they're stuck in the
No, I don't give them
paradox.
refraction. I don't give them refraction.
Pardon me.
I'm just saying they're stuck in a
Hold on,
paradox
John?
either way.
John is saying, like, let me try to paraphrase John. The initial claim is that Eratosthenes and Al-Biruni did this thing, right? That's what we should be dealing with, is the actual claim. Why are we talking to nutters that are denying that claim?
Because I'm not giving them a radius. Adam's not giving them a radius. I'm not giving them refraction. Adam's not giving them refraction. We're not giving them any of those two things. What we're doing is we're pointing out and showing mathematically and through moving demonstration how ridiculous the outcome of their claims, what they need to claim to, let's just say, what they need to claim to try and somehow explain away BLMSB seeing 31 miles from a 1 foot observation. I can show with a moving demonstration just how ridiculous their claim is. And I have people in my chat laughing about how ridiculous it is. And I have the ballers asking me to go easy on them, on their ball. Make it look better. Make it be in a better light. Because they don't like the reality that I'm showing.
Let me translate to QE. They're making fun of delusional people, is what they're doing, QE.
And revealing the delusion, showing what's inside of the baller's head, so that other people don't just have like, that's weird how they act, but actually give them an insight on, no, this is actually what's going on in there, right? So that people understand them better, and it might be less intimidating to them that way.
A baller, mate, just happily trip off his tongue. Oh, it's 3,040 over 6R today. And it's that ludicrousness that Brian then shows in the GeoGebra stuff. And that's all we're doing, is just showing them the implications that they clearly don't understand of their claim. Of what, and their claim goes back to their fundamental premise that the horizon is Earth curve. And that's what you just keep bringing them back to, because that's what they've got to deny to get out of this.
Yeah, Adam, exactly. Every video I make on that topic, I state very, very clearly that what they're claiming is not refraction. It's only mathematics. I said based on an R value that they can't measure, because the mathematics point out that the horizon could never be geometric, because it's always refractive. So I use the black swan type mentality within the videos all the time. I don't say this is refraction, because it's not. It's mathematics. I'm very clear about that. And none of them. I have idiots like Sean Hawkins trying to tell me that the horizon is geometric. Do you know what I mean? Yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's a bit masochistic, though. It's a bit masochistic, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but they wanted it. They won't stop. These people are the most arrogant group of people I think the world has ever known. They won't stop unless you drive them into the ground in every way you can. That's what I'm doing. Because talking to them about how the horizon was not geometric, all you were getting was, yeah, but it's refractive. And then they want to have a conversation about refraction with someone. And then people have a big conversation. And it's like, no, it's not geometric, right? So, okay, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to wait, like what I've done with the past couple of taboo conspiracy videos that you brought out showing these big, long observations. I preempted what the ballers were going to say before they got to say it. And I made a video showing what they have to claim to explain these observations. I did the same with BLMSB's 69's observation.
It seems like what they really want to do is confuse the topic so much that even they are confused, and then anyone else watching is also confused. Is what it seems to me like is what's happening.
Yeah,
Well,
they
that's
can
where
take a
they
new
go
person.
when they lose control and they can't they can't continue their dream anymore. Then that's the secondary position they'll take. It's like, oh, I can't make it work. Well, then nothing can be made to work. They just
These
create the
people,
chaos.
No, a new person.
these people, once Brian and Adam showed the ridiculous ridicule of any of their claims while not accepting refraction the way they say it or are the way they say it, but showing them how ridiculous, they're incapable, not willing to look at evidence and follow the evidence. It is showing that they'll die with their globe, even though it doesn't cut the mustard. No matter what, these people are never going to be converted.
The reason I do it is because there's so many times, I'll be quick, Adam. There's so many times that a new person comes into a video like the Book Conspiracy could make. When I say a new person, they don't have to be brand new, but they may not understand all the globe maths. And some glober can take them on a video like that and write a comment to them and whack in a lot of maths into the comment, right? And that explains away the problem and make it seem like the person was naive in what they were. The person was naive to even look at the video. That's what they do. They want to make it seem like they have some kind of an argument. So I take their argument and I preempt it before they get a chance to do that. So now, if one of them does that, someone else can say to that person, here's what they're claiming, and this is how ridiculous it is. They can look at my videos and go, hang on, this is absolutely ridiculous, which takes away the validity of a lot of maths in a comment, making someone seem like they're some kind of learned person. That's what these ballers are always trying to do. They're always trying to come across to new people as if they're some kind of learned legends. They're not. They're idiots a lot of the time, and they're maniacs. And that's what I'm pointing out. Thanks, Neil.
Thought you were done. So what you're saying?
If you heard the song, then I would have stopped. I would have stopped talking, wouldn't I?
So what you're saying, Tent, is they can never catch up.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you're talking to brickheads. They're never going to change. There's no reason to catch up because they're incapable of understanding when they're defeated. They are never defeated.
I'm sorry, Brian. It sounded like you stopped. I didn't mean to upset you. But you said they would never cut the mustard. So I figured that, they can never catch up to where Brian is.
Well,
the new people deal with it.
Thanks for the condiment.
It seems to me that in the Holy Grail, the Black Knight, when his arms and legs are cut off and he's sitting on the ground, like, still threatening King Arthur. It's at the point where you all are arguing with him that his arms and legs are missing, is how I see it. But I could be wrong.
That's exactly it, John. But the Black Knight is sitting on the ground, trying to act like he still has arms and legs, and telling new people how everything is fine, and how they are idiots to even think that he doesn't have arms and legs.
Well, you're giving him his arms and his legs.
I'm not giving him his arms and his legs. I'm showing how he doesn't have them.
You're showing him that over there are his arms and legs. Over there, where you put him. I'm not sure the objection is, because all we've done is go to the horizon here. So it's kind of the end of the modus tolerance bit from the Black Swan. Because you finish on that with a laugh of, here's your new R value of 250,000. It's tongue in cheek to us, yeah. But we're doing it because we're taking the piss. Because this is their statements. These are the things that give them their ball, and all we're doing is showing them what the statement they're actually making is and how ridiculous it is. We're not giving them anything. They're the ones that have it. Just like from the modus tollens, the first statement, that's not mine, that's theirs. And I want them to reject it. I want them to laugh at the new R value, because it's not my claim, but it is fundamentally theirs. That's what you're seeing if you live on a ball. That's the implications.
But if you
Exactly.
walked away, the Black Knight would starve to death.
No, he wouldn't. There'd be other idiots that'd wander up and believe that his arms and legs are still on there because of the numbers he's just spout, and they just carry on. Yeah, and that's what Brian's doing. That's what he's dealing with, isn't he? He's cleaning up that mess after the knight's been killed, but he's still laying on the ground. He's still talking. So some people are still listening, and that's all he's doing. He's just
Yeah,
chopping
it's
off.
annoying he ever had arms and legs at this stage. That's what he's doing. I never had those arms and legs. They're not mine. That's what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah.
So are you saying that when they keep changing it with new mathematics, it only proves that the initial measurement, which was never a measurement but calculation by mathematics, to the physical edge, geometric horizon, was wrong and never done because they keep changing it with mathematics, which would have to be the same mathematics in the initial discovery of it. When that was wrong and these are wrong, it's not existing.
Yeah, you force them into admitting the paradox, the Arwinian paradox, or you laugh at them in terms of what they're claiming when you show them the numbers, or you show it in a chord perspective of what they're actually mapping the world out to be like now. How ridiculous it is what they're doing. And that's all we're pointing out here, because we understand their claim. We've had to bother to learn it to see what they're doing with the numbers. Started off with the perspective hijacking, proof of nothing, Earth curve calculator. Yeah, it took us time to figure out what they were taking, what they were using. And once we had, you've got them, because they can't make those claims anymore. Like Ruth is desperate to get me to say it's something other than what's on screen right now, which is a way of calculating angles based on straight lines and circles. Nothing to do with the real world. Nothing to do with observation. Only to do with geometry. So it doesn't matter which way it goes, to me. We can either have them accept the paradox, accept that the way they're viewing it and calculating it is nonsense, or accept the implications of what they say is the way to calculate it.
It's having a negative. Well, it is having a negative effect on them. The proof is the communication that Adam's getting from Rohit, and all the communication I'm getting from the ballers, trying to get me to somehow accept that I'm strawmanning them when I'm showing them their maths, the implications of their maths and their claim. This is the implication, and I'm showing it before they get a chance to put it into a nice light. When taboo conspiracy highlights someone's observation that's a long distance observation, I'm highlighting what the ballers must claim before they get a chance to put it into a nice little package for someone who doesn't know any better. I'm showing the ridiculousness of what they must claim, taking away their claim, showing how they must deny their own claim. That's the whole point of what I'm doing. And Adam the same.
Are you showing that with respect to Alberuni or Eratosthenes?
No, it's respect to the Black Swan. Okay, so it's respect to the modus tollens. All of this is based on that, yeah? My formula is derived from the Black Swan formula. It's just rearranged, isn't it? All of this is based in that, and it only deals with the Black Swan claim, and it deals with the implications. But it's not dealing with Eratosthenes or anything like that. It's just dealing with the fundamental premise that the horizon is Earth curve.
Wait, the Black Swan claim. What is the claim in the Black Swan?
Distance to the horizon 1.22, yeah? So that's the bit that we're then rearranging to say, well, if you guys are making the claim that Earth curve is the horizon, and we can see the horizon in the Black Swan at this distance, then that means your R value is this. How ridiculous is it to claim that? Because that's what you're claiming.
Yeah, because we're using what they must claim. Like I specifically point out, John, refracted, that they claim the model that they follow always has a refracted horizon. So the implications of that is that there is no ever geometric horizon. It never existed. It is only in the maths, as Rumpus states, and as McQuest shows. That's why he always shows the geometric and the refracted, because it's not refraction, it's only mathematics. Where they take an arc length, their globe is a constant arc length of a circle. It just depends on how much of an arc length of that circle it is. For the 31-mile observation from BLM SB 69, it was a tiny little sliver of an arc length, a pathetic little sliver of an arc length at the top of a massive, effective circumference. I mean, when the audience see that, they laugh.
But what I'm saying in the Black Swan is dealing with a positive claim that was made, right? Is if the Earth is a sphere, but Eratosthenes and Alberuni are the ones, and people like them, made that claim without refraction. They weren't utilizing refraction for that claim.
Yep.
Who wasn't? Alberuni.
Yeah, where in Alberuni's mathematics is refraction accounted for?
No, it doesn't.
So why argue with them about it?
But we're not arguing with them about it. But this is the point. Me and Adam aren't arguing with them. We're going along with them with their claims after, the fact that they always have to claim the horizon's always refracted. That's their claim.
Sorry.
It's just go back to January 2020. Rumpus. No, the horizon is always refracted because he knew it always was in the maths. He knew it. McQuest knew it. That's why McQuest disappeared when the Black Swan came out. It wasn't just because, I'm in trouble, the Black Swan. That, I have to now tell everyone that the horizon's always refracted because it always is in my model. Because the horizon, not once in history, not one time in history, if you go by their claim, not one time in the history of the Earth has the horizon adhered to the geometry of a 3959 ball. Not even one time. That is their claim.
Brian, you remember?
It's true. It hasn't.
Brian, Adam, you remember that article where it says we must embrace the fiction in our science? And it listed the radius and effective radius and all this. And the title is We Must Embrace the Fiction in Our Science. So all this is, all along, is a thought experiment. Nothing more, nothing less.
Or a delusion. You could just say delusion instead of thought experiment. I don't think they're about the same thing anymore.
Well, it's delusion after you show them it is a thought experiment and it doesn't vet out in reality. Then you could call them delusion.
Okay.
Yes, then, but when the mathematics, sorry, very quickly, Nathan, when the mathematics are presented back to them in its truest form, their claim is presented back to them mathematically in its truest form, and then shown as a moving diagram, their delusion becomes somewhat real to them then. They get to see the implications of their delusion. It's not just some equations that they threw together in a comment to someone who doesn't know any better. Or the hand wave away something.
We call that.
That's the problem.
Yeah, we call that self-deceived or self-delusional. After seeing the facts, after having the mind and reasoning skills to see the lie, they still choose to live in the lie. So, yeah, you're right.
So we're getting more into moral implications of the character at that point.
No.
What Ted said, that's not exactly what I'm trying to do.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is when you're talking to people, the reason you hang out with people you hang out with because you got some commonality, right? You don't hang out with people you don't like or don't trust. So here we're in the debate on the nature of our reality. And we say, well, we could even use your own claims to destroy you. And this is what Adam and Brian are showing, that their own math, their own claims destroy them. And then they decide they're not going to pay attention to it, become delusional about it, and look past. Because if they look past the math that Adam and Brian are showing, it's their own math that they're saying doesn't work, that got their first R value that wasn't there. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because
No,
their own
arguing.
claim. Sorry, John.
No, it seems like they're not arguing that. They're arguing past that.
Yeah, maybe if you want to be more detailed about it, but still, they have to say, we're going to use the same math that gave us the 3959 that we never observed because there's refraction. So the globe is always bigger than what was ever, never measured, but calculated because it was a thought experiment, because we assumed it to be a globe, and we used two straight lines and the differential of them to make up the globe.
Well, if you show somebody one of the GeoGebra demonstrations that have done up for any of the observations that it's based on, who is just a normal everyday globe believer, you show them that, they're going to say that is not the globe. That's what they're going to deny it because it looks so ridiculous. Now, I have people, multitudes of them really at this stage, who are trying to tell me that I'm strawmanning the globe because I'm showing what the implications of their actual claim is. I'm pointing out that their horizon was never geometric via their claim. So they don't have a claim. That's the implications of it, and they know it. It's a subtlety that they're all unhappy about. But the point is that for instance, the past two Taboo conspiracy videos where he detailed long distance observations, when I preempted their rebuttals to any of that, because they're going to do a big rebuttal, right? All they've got is it's clouds. Oh, they're just clouds. Like they're just clouds, the Alps or whatever. They're just clouds. That's all they've got now. They couldn't even make their own. They couldn't make their own response and make it look good because I showed it what it really is. So I'm taking.
Right, they're harder to deal with. I don't know if you can see on screen. This is you're too prolific in your criticism, Brian. It's hard to keep up with you. You see, I've only got halfway through the video, but this is one you've sent me, and this is another one I've looked at because they're trying to invoke diverging zenith. So they're trying to confuse people with maths and show a demonstration. If you look here, they're coming out with an angle of 107, 180 degrees, 7 minutes and 53 seconds, which is supposed to be their divergence of zenith. But I just did a little bit of maths, right? So I've taken this 58,481 feet. So it's 11.07 miles. And I've multiplied that by 0.00899326161, which is the ratio of degrees per mile. And that gives me, what did it give me? It gives me a degree value of 0.996083, which when I convert to minutes is just short of 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 59 seconds. It'll be something like that, won't it? 5 minutes, 59 seconds is not, it is the amount of divergence of zenith that should be between those two distances. But they've got virtually 8 minutes. So 60, 70% more. So I assume we invoke refraction, but what this one does, this is interesting to see, whereas previously the black swan and their horizon has to make the ball bigger, this one makes the ball smaller because you've got to get more degrees in the same amount of distance. And now we've got an R value that's smaller by 40% to give you that. That's all as far as I've got, Brian. I wanted to share that with you, just the implications, because they're going to try and claim anything over 180, those minutes and seconds, is Earth curve. And if you're going to do that, you've got twice the rate of curve, which means your ball's smaller than you're claiming.
Yeah,
so in this diagram,
I knew you'd spot that. Go on, John. I'll go in a second. Go on.
In this diagram, where the lines are obviously parallel, the zeniths are obviously parallel. They're trying to figure out their divergence.
Well, they're trying to state that they're diverging. What they did, This is what they did. This is what Jesse Kozlowski, and Larry Scott, these two claim surveyors on the globe side, this is what they did, right? And Blue Marble Science highlighted this. So he knows what they did. His mathematics are good enough to know. He knows that this is a fraud. I brought this out about 5 or 6 months ago. What they did is, if there's two elevations there, there's a lower elevation where somebody is down on, let's say more ground level, and there's an elevation where someone is up over 1,000 feet on the top of a small mountain or whatever, right? What they did is the person on the lower elevation, they just took the angular size of the mountain, right? And the person on the higher elevation just took a dip correction to the person on the lower elevation. And they back engineered those two, right? You'll have to go through the video, but I try and give it as best an explanation as I can. They back engineered those two things, right, into diverging zeniths. And I show how they needed to have 290 degrees with a horizontal baseline between them to even begin to back engineer any of this. Because you can't have an angular size measurement without a horizontal baseline, and you can't have a dip correction without a horizontal roof, let's just say. And a horizontal baseline basically underneath, well, you're going to need it underneath as well. But the point is that they just used two right angle triangles. And they tried to claim more than 180. And I show how and I go through it, and I show with Metabunk how Metabunk displays it, and how when Metabunk, because Metabunk has to use triangles and a horizontal plane. If you look at the Metabunk, what it does go down into its angular size, different angular sizes, and I can't remember what the name of it now, but they're using angles. I can't remember the name of the section now, but they're using angles in Metabunk, right? Which means they have to use a horizontal baseline. And I show through Metabunk and through the angular size calculator that they just had an angular size, which is just basically just one theodolite taking the angular size of a mountain, right? And the other theodolite taking a dip correction down to the person taking the angular size of the mountain 11 miles away. Now, they didn't do any of this. They never went anywhere and did any of this. This is total nonsense. They just made this up mathematically. But that's all they did. But if you look at what they do, they try and convert those things and use them differently within their maths to claim that the zeniths are divergent. But Adam spotted exactly what I was hoping he would spot. I just knew he would. That the globe they're using has to be smaller, even to do that. This is the fraud we're dealing with.
But you have to have a flat Earth to do it. Why would you need a smaller globe that doesn't?
It's not a smaller globe. It's what they've done. Look, and this is just flim flam, isn't it? Look, we've produced an excess above 180 degrees. Therefore, that must mean a diverging zenith. Therefore, a ball. And all I'm saying is, fine. That's your claim. Let's have a look at the maths. Lovely. You've got a ball, but oh my goodness, it's got a very small R value today. Doesn't fit your claim. Doesn't demonstrate anything that you're claiming, that the Earth curves at 8 inches per mile. Doesn't. It's probably curving at 12, 14 inches per mile on your new ball today. Is that really the new claim you're making? Because that's the evidence you've produced. You want me to deal with that? So the ball is now got an R value of 2,500. Lovely. That's your new claim. You want me to debunk that now? And that's all I'm saying to them. Don't bring this and tell me it shows it's a ball. Okay. What size ball does it show? Is that your new claim?
You're right on, because that's what Danny Faulkner does in that video. Bigger Earth, smaller Earth.
It's not really talking.
Yeah, but you're demonstrating a flat Earth. You're actually proving why the Earth has to be flat.
It's on screen. Look where the measurements are from. Yeah. But what they're trying to say is these inaccuracies in real world, or whether theoretically calculated, prove it's a ball. I'm so lovely. Does it? Okay. Follow that logic through, and you've got a much smaller ball. So you've not demonstrated your heliocentric model in any way, shape, or form. You've totally destroyed it. Because
Not if you showed the other
remember,
puzzle,
gravity's just changed because now we've got less mass, got a smaller ball, so gravity changes. Everything changes as soon as they mess around with the R value. And that's what they're trying to show here. And that's what they've claimed to have demonstrated. And it demonstrates that every single bit of their physics now is bunkum.
Well, I just think it's funny that they're showing conceptually how a flat plane would work, talking about the measurements they had to take from that flat plane, showing you how it was done in the picture that you have displayed, and then saying it's a sphere because of what you're showing.
Exactly. And I'm saying, I'm not going to waste my time trying to educate you, all right, how ridiculous that is and how nonsensical the claim is and how it doesn't deal with reality as Brian's laying out with distances in terms of angular size reductions, all of that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, okay, I'll accept it. Let's explore your claim. Just stay in your claim. We don't need to prove or disprove it. What is it claiming? And what it claims is more laughable because it destroys their heliocentric model. It's just shrunk the Earth, is what they're saying, by a stupid amount. Not by an
Well, I have an
acceptable
update.
variance.
I have an update. Radius value is 28 over 24, meaning the radius is 31,672,
Earth's breathing.
according to Zeus.
I don't. He'd have to be. He'd need to give more information of his claim there, his radius value. There is no radius value. That's an actual measurement for a start. To claim a radius value means he's claiming a measurement. Right? That's not a measurement. We're talking about over 6R. Right? Over 6R. No, we're not talking about measurements here or reality.
I said according to Zeus, not me.
Who's Zeus?
Yeah, who is Zeus? Who is this guy? Why are you even bringing him up? And
It's a voice I'm hearing.
what's the point
It's
of it?
just a voice. It's a voice I'm hearing.
For the purposes of this discussion, there is no Zeus.
Thank you.
That's funny. This morning I hit the Zeus button and slept 5 minutes more.
I was trying to get that ketchup pun out. I kept stepping out, Brian. Don't be mad at me, Brian.
No worries, Neil. Just on what Adam's presenting there, I pointed out the fraud that this came off the back of well, we all know about the divergent zenith claim. Something I debunked years ago using XYZ coordinates. Now they can't work. That's what surveyors use, XYZ. All GPS uses XYZ. It's the raw coordinates from a GPS unit, and the units they use are GPS. They've been using XYZ prior to GPS in all their mathematics. My mother's partner is a retired geodetic surveyor. He retired in 1993, just as GPS was turning up. So everything he did mathematically, he had to do on paper, let's just say, and he had to use XYZ all the time. Right? They never don't use XYZ, which requires parallel zeniths. So that ends the argument right there and then. But these people wanted to continue on. And I heard this claim when Blue Marble Science was debating Bev about 5-6 months ago. It's like, what? They're turning up with this nonsense again. And I went in and I looked at what they were claiming and I pulled it apart and showed exactly what happens. And the ballers in the comments think that they tried to say, all they're doing is adding 90 and 90 and coming up with 180. And it's like, yeah, because that's all that's actually happening. Because they need two 90s that have a corresponding baseline, 11 miles apart, to do what they're doing. And I show every bit of it. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They're taking two 90s, they're making up 180. But the way they're getting those two 90s, which is why they're using two different elevated positions, right, is done on purpose. This is on purpose to fool people. That's why I call them frauds. Like Blue Marble Science, I don't call him Attenborough fraud. I just call him a fraud. Anytime he comes near me in the comments, I just go, why are you here, fraud? Because he's a fraud, and he knows he is. But just want to throw this out there, the whole of the Try Thinking server, none of them that I'm aware of has even watched that video. And they're still arguing with now, not that they would accept that and they would come from Blue Marble Science or Jesse Kozlowski or any of them as anyway saw it. But none of them have, because there's angles involved, they can't go near it because they all denounce angles.
See, this is where they want you to argue. They want you to spend your time arguing that no, Google Earth doesn't represent a flat baseline. It's just so it looks nice on a graph, and they want to argue about those angles and Cartesian grid systems and how yeah. But I can't be bothered, so I'll just extrapolate your claim and laugh at you because it's your claim, and you're saying we're on a small ball today, based on the way you've now decided. I don't want to go into the nonsense of how you apply this to a ball, how you take flat Earth measurements to a ball. I'll just take it to the end and take it to their claim. And then back, Nathan, how would you deal with it? I'm intrigued because me and Brian are different. John had just beat him up from the beginning. What would you deal with this one?
It depends. I would wait till they beg the question, point it out, and then laugh at them. Sometimes it depends on my mood. Sometimes that's why I'm keeping quiet, because there is no right or wrong answer. Well, it's easy for John to say, "Oh no, what are value?" Sometimes you have to work within their paradigm to get them to argue with you at all. Sometimes I decide, "No, I'm not going to let you move forward. We've made the point, and you need to concede it." It just depends on the circumstances.
Just for clarity, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way. I'm just saying that it's kind of silly. Anything they do at this point is silly.
Well, the best part of this back and forth, and I've enjoyed it immensely, is the knowledge we receive. And it just, especially those who follow the show, this will be great help to them, because you do know for a fact it was never measured, it was always pre-assumed, and they needed math. And then Adam and Brian are saying, yeah, but then when you see a long distance image that doesn't go with your math to that calculated R, you use the same math and increase the size of the globe. But you can't do that, because then it could only exist in the mathematical formula, never in reality, because your geometric horizon must be physical and cannot stretch and shrink the way you're doing it with math. It just opens up the whole inside of how they fooled everyone. That's what I'm saying.
So how come Danny Faulkner just continues
Who
to
cares
say
about
what he
Danny
says and other
Faulkner?
people? Like,
we're
not
not
just
talking
him,
about
other
Danny
people.
Faulkner right now.
Not just him, other people. How are they not getting it?
No, why do you say?
Is it deliberate?
Well, listen, we're just talking about people who are not getting it, who should get it. And then you're saying, how about Danny Faulkner who's not getting it? I don't care about people who don't get it.
No, well, because it's on the video. That's why. It's fresh in my mind.
I know, but it doesn't matter. Think of the words you use. We are disseminating truth. Who cares who gets it, who doesn't get it? It's not my power.
So that means that, yeah, but what I'm saying is they are getting it. They're just refusing to accept it. It can't be that they're not getting it. If I'm getting it, how are they not getting it? So they're just refusing.
No, hang on, Brian. No, the people at that church were getting it. There were lots of questions the pastor couldn't answer, so they got to get someone who's not getting it on purpose, not getting it, or whatever reason he's not getting it, to come and talk about it. So some people are getting it. What was he at a church talking about it? This is on fire, flat Earth.
Yeah, no, I mean Rufy and them guys, not just the church. He took it away from him. I'm saying guys that like Rufy. He knows.
Neil, when I bother to look into this and then put it out, share it with Brian, and Brian's putting it out, I don't think anyone gives a flying cadoodle whether Rufy gets it or anybody else, because we know even if they get it, they're not going to accept that point. They're going to try and use our understanding to try and use another wordsmithing to distract from the point. But if, like in Brian's videos, he's gone through in great detail, we've got 3 or 4 good points why it's nonsense. Brian's points, my perspective, QE's simpler perspective, get your right value. It's all laid out there for people that do want to have an explanation as to what's going on, are interested because they can see it, but maybe they haven't got the group we've got where we work these things out. Been worked out for them and explained what's happening. Be that my 2640 distance to the horizon, you knew our value, what Brian's done there. It's all there now, properly explained how they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And if you are interested, you'll find that and it'll be useful to you. And if you're not, you'll carry on the path you're on anyway, irrespective of what we say.
Here's what I'm saying. I understand all that. When I first came to Flat Earth, I didn't have all this. I had Defeat the Nonsense, Ice Walls, Space is Fake, the Cavendish bullcrap, and all of this other stuff, right? I didn't have the information that's being disseminated here. Didn't have any of that. You're
Right,
telling me people are having all of that right now and still shaking their heads and saying, there's a problem here.
Yeah, but your question
very
is,
simple.
well, hang on, Brian, if I may. So you got to rephrase your statement, Neil. With all these facts and total beatdowns on globe mathematics, it's amazing how people refuse to look at the truth when it's right in front of them.
Yeah, I guess. Not Cavendish. I'm talking about Sanyak. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Well, see, the problem is, Neil, you have a lot of people out there who would find what we're stating as an overall claim that the Earth is flat, enclosed, stationary, that they would find that very, very difficult to believe, not because of their own experience in life, but because they would find it difficult to believe that universities, NASA, all these people could get it that wrong, right? No way could they be wrong about that, because how could they get that wrong? They couldn't believe that anyone, let's say astronauts or anyone, could be directly lying to their face for decades. They couldn't believe that. And that's the starting problem we have, right? So you take that kind of lack of being able to believe that could happen, right? So they're distancing them. People distance themselves straight away from the Earth being flat, stationary, and enclosed as a reality. So then the ballers come along, or someone comes along and shows them something that's at a distance. Now, unfortunately, I have to use the see too far argument here, right? And the geometry of a 3959 ball doesn't cut it, because it would mean that they're seeing below the horizon to be able to see this object. And there's an horizon behind the object. So what happens then, right? They need to mathematically curve your line of sight to go around a ball. But they can't do that because they know you see horizontally. So they have to always have an arc length of a circle. Their globe is an arc length of a circle, so it's not a globe, it's not even a circle. That is always shown to you, and you're always observing it at different degrees of curvature. So the arc length today could be more curved than the arc length tomorrow. People don't realize that they're being fed a paradigm of living on an ever-changing arc length. That's what they're actually being given. Because they can't tell you that you're seeing around something, because line of sight is direct and it's straight line. So they can't say that. But the implications are on a 3959 ball that someone is seeing around the side of the ball. That's the implications when they're seeing hundreds of miles away or whatever. That's the implications. So people can't understand. They don't understand the excuses they're being given, but they accept them because it's either accept those excuses over 6 or whatever other rubbish, than accept that everyone got it wrong.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Mother turned around in a temper, in anger, and shook her fist at me and said, "Don't you take away the moon landings from me or from us. That's my generation." don't you take that away. Because she knows, you know, now I didn't go any further with it because I wasn't even trying to do that. But it was just an instant reaction she had. Because she knows that I know that they're a load of bullshit. And she knows that she knows they're a load of bullshit. But she can't accept that.
But does she
My
know?
mother can't.
But does she know that you know that she knows it's a load of bullshit?
Yeah, but there you go. Yeah, that's fair enough, right? I accept that. But the point is that people who are of our generation and older than us especially, let's just say me and Neil maybe, they're going to find it very difficult to accept that. But when their children and grandchildren are turning up, telling them, no, it's flat, that's what will be the key. It's all the younger generation and generations coming along now. That's what's going to change the tide. All the stuff we've been doing, like we are about banging our heads off a brick wall with a lot of people of our own generation. But it'll be the younger people, their kids and grandkids, to turn up and say, no, it's flat, no, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be this overwhelming, no, it's flat. You know,
well, you know,
it just become the norm.
That's what scares me, is because of the lack of self-awareness. The older generations will look at their children and think, if there wasn't these flat earthers out there telling my kids this information, then they would believe it was a globe. And that's kind of how inquisitions start. Or not an inquisition, but control of the information. And I think it'll get a lot worse before it'll ever get better.
Yeah, but they know once the internet came out, they got no more control of the information.
Well, they may not have.
The people who created it.
They may not have control the way you say, but they're sure stuffing us in the back room somewhere. No one knows our channel exists, so they're doing something.
Yeah, but how long is that going to last?
Well, we're archaic. They got warning under our channel.
Yeah, the flat Earth model is an archaic model. I would agree with that.
See, I don't like that. I don't like that.
What, the globe's a flat Earth model? The globe's a flat Earth model.
I don't have a model.
This is archaic.
Well, I don't even have. I don't have a model. I live in reality. They say, with their model, that I'm on the ball, spinning, but I don't feel spin or rotation. I get off the Earth and stars are rotating. So it can't be the Earth rotating, causing the appearance that the stars are rotating. So that's debunked right there. Then we got the black swan. Then we got gas pressure that they have to show us existing next to a vacuum of such immensity that the most we've ever done is the Sandusky astronaut training one. That's 10 to the 6th. But guess what? No one goes in there because their saliva starts boiling in their mouth. So, well, show me gas pressure next to a vacuum and we'll drop that one. No, you can't? Okay, great.
That's what I mean.
Well, what do you mean what I mean? All you could do is tell the truth, Neil. Don't worry about counting notches on your belt.
Well, if you read Genesis, it describes the whole thing. And it never describes the ball. It has the land coming out of the water, correct? Where
Neil,
do you see
how'd you transition to that? We were talking
because I was just thinking of it when you said gas pressure out of container. I was thinking of creation, and it comes up out of the water, right? So I don't understand. There's no ball anywhere. Reality tells us that.
No, there's no
on a flat Earth, correct?
No, there's no sphere mentioned in the Bible. There's no rotation mentioned in the Bible. There's no outer space the way they describe with billions of suns, because there was only one sun created, one moon created for this Earth, which was created first. After there was an enclosure, it came out of the water. Then on the fourth day, the sun, moon, and all the stars and all the so-called wandering stars and their moons, they was placed inside this firmament. That's the description. Now, once you debunk the globe as only mathematical, then everyone can read the Bible and say, you know what, it has to be flat because you stretch a line on it. It's the circle of the Earth, which is two-dimensional circle, not a three-dimensional. So they read it differently. It's like Flatzoid said. He grew up in the church. He went to classes. And he didn't even bother to think anything else. But then once he saw that it only existed in the math, when he read those scriptures again, boom, it read totally differently.
Right, because
Hi, guys.
I used to just go right past the firmament. I didn't even know what the heck it meant.
Right. Well, pastors today go past the firmament because it's devastating.
I didn't when I was younger, but my parents didn't really know what to say about the firmament, and we didn't associate it with flat Earth at first. But it was just like, yeah, firmament. What is that? Oh, it's the stars are in it or something. I'm like, what? Okay, let's move on. So
Hi, guys. It's funny. Today I approached, I actually sort of videoed it a little bit, but I approached a couple of Jehovah's Witness outside a shop, and I was nice to them. I just asked them about. I asked them, did they think life was created, and they said yeah. And then I asked them, did they think they live on a globe, and they said yeah. So I explained that the globe it comes from a Big Bang situation, and the conversation was pretty. It was. But what did they say next? It was like. I got onto the gas pressure with containment and stuff like that, but I found them. It was automatically jumping to space and the moon. I said, well, you're saying life's created, but you believe in the globe, so you can't believe it's created because that doesn't fit the narrative. And they was looking. I mean, it was a nice conversation, but they was stuck for words to say to me the way I was sort of having this conversation with them. Just trying to think
because
what
they
else
want
said.
their
I had a
cake and they
similar
want to eat it
experience
too.
recently.
Sorry, go ahead.
See?
I had a similar experience. There was a couple of Mormons, I think they were Mormons that came to the door, and they wanted to have a conversation with me. And I said, look, the people that for you to have a conversation with, I said, are my friends, as they're Christians and they're long-time Christians, and there'd be more them you should speak with. But I kind of went cryptic with them, said a few things, and caused them. One of them was very interested in what I was saying, but he didn't know why he was interested. And as soon as I brought up the fact that the Big Bang came from the Vatican, the other guy, the bigger guy, said, right, we're going. He said, no, are you interested in joining or getting involved in what we do? I said, oh, no. If I want to talk about the Bible, I said, I can talk to my friends. They're experts, I said. Right, I have all the information I need at my fingertips. I don't need to join your congregation or whatever. He said, right, goodbye then.
You know why,
As
Brian?
soon as I pointed out
quickly
Big Bang
get the
came
hell
from
out of
Vatican.
here.
No,
Yeah,
you know why? Because they got
business
space.
playing up.
No, when they're gonna inherit planets, that's why you scared the older guy probably. They're gonna inherit a planet and they're gonna be gods on that planet. You came right against their religion.
Yeah.
Right. What your problem was there? Mormons, Jovos, it doesn't really matter. Don't engage them on the doorstep. Get them indoors, get the door locked, and then they can't run off when you get to those topics. They try.
Exactly. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You gotta be all friendly. Like, oh, really? I'm really. If they wouldn't be creeped out at the moment that you're like, oh yes, of course, come in. Then yeah, they deserve it. You lock them in, and then it's like, oh yeah. Did you know the Earth is flat?
You could use it as containment. You could say, let me demonstrate how containment works. You bring them in and you lock the door. You say, now you see how you're contained here? And then go right into it.
It's sad that we're talking about how you have to effectively kidnap someone to get them to hear the truth. That's depressing.
Not anyone, just Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. It's kind of a revenge.
No, wait, what did Jehovah's believe?
Yeah.
They will squirm on that when you go to those topics. Yeah. Because they do believe in scripture so much, it's fun that they don't know what to do with that information when you start to present it like that. Because you read the Watchtower and all those things, it's all heliocentric, the way it's presented to them. Everything's a ball in. It's so much space on the front covers of the Watchtower.
But I got
Adam,
into
what
reading.
do they believe, though? Do they
love
believe
the
that they're
stars,
getting?
so they're going to use the stars. I mean,
Yeah, but they love scripture, and that's why you use scripture, and that's why it's very difficult for them when you do discuss scripture
I did
with
it
them.
today, Adam. when I had the conversation, I said about Genesis. I said it describes how it was created in Genesis. Do you agree? Oh yeah. And then he was finding some literature on his phone, and he read something out to me. I can't remember. It wasn't actually Genesis; it was Job, but he mentioned a bit stretched out. And I said, "Well, I've just read that, and nowhere in that paragraph does it mention a spinning globe." I said, "To me, it's explaining a flat and stationary Earth. Would you not agree?" And he said he was trying to show me something to say, but then he mentions, well, science. They started bringing science into it. Then we had to go through what the science issue is. With you can't use science to prove the shape of the what you're standing on. Well, it's just amazing how I could see the brains ticking though. I've got the you don't have to. I'll post it in main chat if you want to
Don't
listen
take this
later.
the wrong way,
It's
Wondeck.
interesting that you say
Hold
that
on a
because
second, Owen.
that's like the surrender to science of the church. They've all been commanded to kind of surrender to, oh, we just have to adapt at first. And now, no. Yeah, science conquered us, but we are still allowed to do our belief, right?
Pseudoscience,
Really
not
shocking to them
science.
when they actually get to find out that, wait, it's actually literal? What?
One
Let's
sec.
phrase it right.
Hold on a second.
Pseudoscience, not science.
Just one sec. So Wondeck, just for my audience's benefit, right? So the guy you were just listening to a second ago, that's Wondeck. He's the guy that has essentially had Dave McKeegan over a barrel, just with a few carefully posted comments. But I just want the audience to understand what you are, Wondeck. So what do you do? In other words, I'm trying to paint you as average Joe. Don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah, well, I'm a family guy. I have children. I'm a refrigeration engineer, and one of my main hobby is music, and I like to do some DJing for my personal pleasure and also for people's parties. Yeah, and that's me. Just average Joe.
Average Joe, enthusiastic about doing
Poet
parties and
and
running his
poet.
DJ gear. Family man.
Oh yeah.
Services, refrigeration units, right? Average, blue collar, normal guy, right? Yeah, take heed. You can have yourself a fun old time with average Joe normal mentality if you understand these arguments. And you can take apart people who are put up on a pedestal by YouTube easily. Now, I'm not going to say easily because Wondeck's done, he's done the due diligence. He knows what he's talking about. My point is that this is not beyond the capabilities of anybody. Don't take that the wrong way, Wondeck, because it's really hard to phrase this in the way I want it to come across without being offensive to you.
Yeah, go for it. It's okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand. And this is the problem some people have, because they think that the people who have come up with the heliocentric narrative and NASA, like you've just mentioned, guys, that they can't be wrong because they've got the knowledge and they're a lot cleverer than you, and they cannot be wrong. But you've just got to think critically, do some research, and use your God-given senses.
Really, there's nothing special about any of us. This group is sort of a cross-sectional representation of society, as far as I can tell. And I think that's what Nathan was going for.
Absolutely.
It's just
absolutely.
I don't think.
Yeah, go on, John. I'm agreeing with you because I'm agreeing with you, and I should just let you go. Go ahead.
Well, no, you go ahead and tell us what your intentions was when you were setting up your panel.
But there's an impression sometimes that we've got some, boffins on the panel, and some people are just well versed in the subject, like me, because I've been here forever. But there's, a good cross section of society, and typically, Neil as a regular does represent our everyday man, right? Now, sometimes Neil will get the whipping boy treatment as a result, and sometimes he won't. But Wondeck's no different in that regard. I'm not saying that we're going to make Wondeck the whipping boy. I'm just saying that he's just average Joe, joined the panel, listened, paid attention, and gone, I can put that argument to someone else and win. But who's he putting it to? Well, he's putting it to the people who want to argue about it. Well, who are they? Well, in this case, the people who are financially motivated, and that would be Dave McKeegan. Right, so what have we got? Fairly substantially sized YouTuber, new, up and coming, I assume well respected within his community, or was until he started talking about triangles. Anyway, and Wondeck has had him over a barrel. that to the audience means that, okay, well, if you're middle of the road, middle management, consider yourself intelligent and you're doing well and you're, really financially well sorted and driving a big car and you're like, this is beneath me. It's like, well, maybe it is, but you'll do well. Just pay attention to the arguments and you'll be able to engage next man. You don't even have to necessarily wholeheartedly throw yourself into flat earth. Just listen, pay attention, get the arguments, and suddenly have someone fumbling and stumbling over their religious belief that you might not necessarily have any vested interest in. Now, while everybody's indoctrinated into globe belief at every class level, race, you name it, creed, it doesn't matter. They're all brainwashed in Western world into the same belief. However, some, like Dave McKeegan in this example, are more invested in it than others. But some people come to the conversation, see and go, oh, it's complex. Now, with the exception of Coriolis effect, I'm going to say that most, if not all of the arguments are actually pretty simple once you wrap your head around them. Now, it might take listening to a couple of shows. It might take 10 shows. But if you were to pay attention for half a dozen shows, you'd be almost well enough equipped to take on anybody who's got a general belief in a globe and passionate about disseminating that belief, like Dave McKeegan. In other words, the end point that I'm trying to make, John, and you're hopefully going to back this up in terms of what you're picking up, what I'm putting down, is that anybody who's in the audience at any class level, intelligence level, can go out there and argue the toss about it and win with some very simplistic arguments. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, and I think that comes from not only QE disseminating like the scientific method and the black swan, but us sitting around talking about the logical implications of some of those things. We've simplified it. We get lost in the weeds sometimes, but I think it's now almost as simple as it can get. And that's come from us communicating back and forth our own understanding.
It can't get any more simpler than what an angle is.
Yeah, but what's a triangle?
What's the baseline of that meaning?
The globe is flat. Dave McKeegan triangle knows that. He used the flat table to prove that.
Love it.
I think he does, though. In his mind, is he getting around the problems that are presented by the flat earthers? Or does he appreciate that what he's presenting... Because QE, when he was critiquing it on Sunday or Saturday on Bulbus's, well, we all were, his attitude was he doesn't even realise. He's like, that intrigues me, does he? To go through the complex steps of making apologetics and, as Brian said, lining up a position to take part to prove that you can't measure something that you'll need to prove it's measured on a globe. You're like, that's quite a lot of mental acrobatics you've got to go through there. At some stage, there must be the contemplation. Well, the angle's coming from a flat plane, so it's measured. Like I say, QE's opinion is no.
Nathan.
Pardon?
That's balanced out with the YouTube revenue.
Maybe.
Right, and the fear, there's also, there's a lot of emotions that come with that because of the way you would be ostracized as a flat earther. I heard Owen Benjamin say, I don't want to be a flat earth person, right? Because it's, from a societal standpoint, you're looked at as ignorant. A lot of negative things come with that. And to even entertain the idea, even after you just literally entertain the idea, that's why anti-flat earthers are also pushed to the bottom. Like they just don't talk about this corner of the internet.
Just another little story as well. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was at a barbecue. Some friends and family were there. Friends of friends. I don't know how it came up. There was a few drinks being passed around. People were tipsy. I don't know how it came up. I don't think I brought the subject up, but the gravity situation came up. So I start talking to this guy who's not family, but he's a family member friend. We know each other. We're acquaintances. I think he's got an idea I'm a flat earther. Anyway, I was giving him the exact gravity. Okay, then what's gravity? He picked something. He did the usual trick. Picked a lighter up and dropped it on the floor. So I give him the pretend helium balloon and told him to let go. Give him that example of gravity, and gas doesn't go down. And this, you could tell, I got the sort of little bit angry reaction coming out. Well, that's just pathetic. I said, well, it's not pathetic. You're saying things go down, that doesn't go down. This went on a little bit, but then it got a little bit. Then somebody else jumped in, and then all of a sudden I was being told, and these were the words, I'm making myself appear very childish at the moment. That's what I was told at this barbecue. You need to. I need to be quiet because I'm making myself look very childish. that was the rebuttal.
That's what happened to me too.
Which I thought, oh, so anyway, I thought I'm not going to ruin everybody's evening.
That's projection.
But that was
so. When somebody says something like that, I immediately think, okay, so your lack of understanding of this subject makes you feel like you felt when you were ignorant, like a child. It's just projection. So this subject makes me feel ignorant and childish. Therefore, you, who have made this subject prevalent in my mind at this moment, are the childish one. Pure projection.
Right, but doesn't that go back to their maturity? Because that's the moment that they accepted it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So they're having to go back to their childhood at the moment that they were questioning these things and where they accepted this obviously false thing as true and deal with it there. That's not easy.
You want to know something that's brilliant? Should I say this? Hopefully this doesn't get me into trouble. Maybe I'll be careful with my words. I don't know. Currently, Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, and Mr. Cheswick are in a back and forth over copyright. Now, frankly, I've kind of lost interest in the legality aspect of it. It's no longer of interest to me. What is of interest to me is what you've just described, John. The regression that, in this case, Fight the Flat Earth has gone through and has become, psychologically speaking, all of the bullies that probably mistreated him in high school, right? So he's projecting out all of this hatred and vitriol and anger and all of this stuff. And it is just like a kid at about 12 bullying another kid or trying to, right? So
Yep.
watching this play out is truly fascinating. Now, if you did want to look at it from a legal point of view, and maybe Craig will listen to this. Okay, I don't necessarily want to help you out, Craig, but you really need to stop talking. The more you say, the more likely you're going to land yourself in a predicament that you can't get out of because of your loose lips, verbally or in email. Now, I don't know why people do it, but they justify their actions in the tete-a-tete between them and their opponent when they should shut their mouth and just move forward with whatever legal means that they've got at their disposal, rather than getting into the argument with their opponent. It's like, oh, God, there's several things that in this process Craig has said that it's like, you've made disclaimers in your argument that could easily be used against you. Now, if you'd have just said nothing, just gone through the steps, you'd have been a lot better served, but people just can't help themselves. And in this instance, like I say, I see that bullied kid coming out in Craig. I mean, that's maybe why I want to help him out. I've got too much empathy. I feel bad for him, like genuinely. Craig, that is. Now, again, he might even win, and my feelings wouldn't change. You know, if he happened to win over Mr. Cheswick, again, it's not really that important. In my mind, he's still very much lost. I shouldn't laugh. This is terrible. I do actually genuinely feel sorry for the guy in this instance, in the circumstances he finds himself in. And to see him regress to that.
Give us some details, Nathan.
Again?
I don't.
What did you say, Brian?
Give us some details. What's the thing about? I don't know what this is about.
Okay, so
And
if you the issue,
Copyright strikes.
the
Hold on, he's
issue
trying to
is.
stay away.
Oh, go on, whoever that is.
I was just saying he's trying to stay away from getting too detailed so he doesn't incur any of YouTube's wrath. That's why he
No,
stayed.
no,
really.
that's not why. I don't mind. I'll detail it. I'll give you a brief précis of what's going on. So Craig has utilised a piece of music that has been produced by Mr. Cheswick. That piece of music produced by Mr. Cheswick has then had Craig's voice dubbed over the top of it by Mr. Cheswick and then put out on YouTube. Craig has then taken this to mean that it's his and taken ownership of it. Now, he may or may not be right. It's not relevant to me in this discussion. My discussion fascination in this isn't in the legality of whether or not Craig will win when Mr. Cheswick's claiming he's stolen his music. It's not really relevant to me. Number one, I don't know. I'm not a copyright lawyer. I don't care. Is number two. Number three, while it originally held a minor amount of fascination to tune in, that has changed radically during the process of watching because of the demeanour of Craig and his regression to a bullied kid. That's how he's behaving. Now, I find that truly interesting.
You said a bullied kid or a bullying kid?
A bullied kid. So if you know much about bullies, right, the kid that's having the crap kicked out of him at home will typically be the biggest bully at school.
I got you.
Yeah, and this subject does nothing for the mental health of people who are unstable anyway.
Exactly. It pushes them over the edge quickly. Maybe that's where we are different on this panel, John. Because, like, while I'm trying to represent us as everyday people, sorry, Arwin, maybe that's not the case. Now, for me, prior to getting to Flat Earth, I'd been through several court cases, none of them legal, or what's the word? They were all civil. Some instigated by me, some not. And that process toughened me to the point where people calling me a numpty because I'm a flat earther is water off a duck's back. It's kind of par for the course, don't care. I knew what I was letting myself in for. So it doesn't affect me. Now, for the people on the opposite side who have got the consent, they need to have, in order to be on that pedestal, on that stage, they need the consensus behind them. They need a lot of reassurance. These are, in many instances, quite weak people who have found confidence. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just going to flat out call them beta cucks,
Nathan.
but you know what I mean.
No, I do, Nathan. There's a lot of people on the Globe side who, as we know, they got notoriety by being our opposition on YouTube. And it gave them strength that they didn't have. Because if they were put in our position, it would be a nightmare for them. They wouldn't be able to, a lot of them wouldn't be able to handle it.
What?
Over the years, the abuse.
Well, you are right. I actually disagree with you because of something that's only really cemented itself in my mind in the last couple of years. And earlier, Adam, I don't know if you remember, you said, well, that's compensated financially. In other words, the promotion they receive as anti-flat earthers will compensate them financially. And I agree. However, I don't think it's enough because some circumstances that I found myself in, and I immediately go to the courtroom circumstances, specifically in the courtroom, very stressful, right? There's certain things that no amount of compensation financially can ever overcome. And the cognitive pain, this is why I brought up Dave McKeegan in terms of his mental processing when talking about how flat Earth must be. Yeah, the mental pain that induces can't be overcome by money because it's mental pain. How can you subsidize mental pain with money? I don't think you can. Now, maybe it offers temporary relief. I don't know. Maybe there isn't any relief to be had. Maybe these people are genuinely so Dunning-Kruger that they don't even realise what they're doing, like QE thinks. I just don't know. It is, however, fascinating. And I agree with everything you've just said. I mean, if the tables were turned and they were in our position, facing the onslaught that we face on a daily basis, they would all go to pieces immediately. None of them have got a strong enough character. You name one of them who's strong enough. Most of them are hiding behind a fake name.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
we
They
give
are
them
most of
too
them are
much
behind.
credit,
Sorry.
Nathan, as human beings. You're judging them by your moral standards, similar to mine, but I don't necessarily think you can put that there. There's a reason you believe in a creator that we that there's an overreaching. If you haven't got that, And money is a great thing. And if you're earning it and your ego is making you feel superior as you laugh at stupid flat earthers and you're popular, I genuinely can see them ignoring the truth that must be there inside. But if it gives you purpose and it makes you feel special, and that's what a lot of this is about as well, yeah, then you're going to accept that, aren't you? Some people, like in modern world, reassign their gender to feel special. I think they know deep down inside there's only two genders, but they're prepared to do it in the world to give them kudos, to make them special.
It's sickening.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets everything he deserves because of what he put you through, Nathan. I remember first hearing from him. I don't want to get into it, but he deserves everything he gets.
I don't actually. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about?
I don't know who needs
Fight the tight shirt.
What's he put me through? He hasn't put me through anything. I think you're thinking of someone else, Neil.
Nah, he insinuated to me that you did a certain thing.
They always said things about everyone, Neil. They never stop. The Fight the Flat Out claimed that Bev abused his child because he was teaching his 14-year-old, I think it was, that level and horizontal were the same thing. He tried to say that was child abuse. So, I mean, who's going to take anything he says serious?
Like I say, Neil,
nobody.
These people, they weaponize the police, they weaponize social services. That's child support agency for you guys in America. That's what they do. That's how cowards behave. Yeah? They're all full of it on YouTube. Until they need to actually do something, then they immediately run to the police. Or they run to YouTube themselves.
Exactly.
Or they run to the authorities, or they run to social services, or they try and get you in trouble. That's what they've got. That's their actual lines of attack. It's pathetic. That's what they do. And they're the first people to cry foul. If were you to do it to them, they would be the first to cry foul also.
I want to comment on...
They're a bunch of...
Go on. I'll go after you.
They're a bunch of social deficit misfit, Pornhub account holding, ex-victims of bullying, losers,
Maybe.
child-minded, immature men who hide behind cartoonish avatars and live this life of just gaming, sitting behind a computer, and wouldn't know what to do with a vagina if it was.
That's taking it a bit too far. Number one, you're stereotyping them, right? Not all of them are hiding behind a sock account name, right? Craig's one of them. I know his name. So, no, that's not necessarily true for all of them. There's different levels for different people. And, you can't just stereotype them all. However, in many instances, they do that. I've experienced it personally. They don't like you? Well, they'll see if they can find an excuse to weaponize the police against you. That's what they do. It's like, okay, why? Because I say the Earth's flat? That's absolutely pathetic. But, like most of it, water off a duck's back to me. If the situation's reversed, they would shit their pants. Because they are weak men in this example. Specifically, not stereotyping.
Well, just by being an anti-flat earther, right? Knowing why the Earth is flat, but still choosing not to accept it. But you're a lapdog to authority.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
whether you know it or not, that's what the position you're taking.
That's what I want to comment on. The perception, no one wants to be known as a flat earther because of the perception, because it's created by the system of deception of who we are, what we live on. And so no one says, at the beginning, I don't want to be known as a flat earther. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not how we approach this thing. This is about a deception issue that we want to talk about, the deception of gravity, the deception of gas pressure next to a vacuum, the deception of Earth rotating but no Earth-based Coriolis, the deception of Earth curve, no R value, and then also how navigation works and the deception of how they go to hell to measure angle measurements when really it's the plane we live on. So when you got all that, and when I'm with people, and this has taken time, because at first I was I wore the badge of a flat earther. Okay. But then I realized how it was being used against me. So I've changed my approach for a while now. And I want to talk to you about the system we live in and the deceptions that hit us every day. And of course, I could mention things that we've all seen happen in the last 2, 3, 4 years where they said, trust the science. I get them on my side by asking, do you think that was true? No. Why? Blah, 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 blah. How about this? Blah, 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 blah. Great. Hey, let me tell you about other deceptions. Now, at this point, I've become a globe claim debunker. Globe claim debunker. I'm not a flat earther at this point. I'm a globe claim debunker. Okay, once I successfully debunk the claims of the globe, now there's that vacuum, okay, pun intended, the void. Well, then what do we live on? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Okay, now that perception flat earth isn't bad anymore because it's not a globe anymore. And so this is the whole psychological tug of war we're having with our friends and family right now.
That just sounds childish, Tenth. I mean, come on, you need to grow up, mate.
Oh, mama.
It does get wearisome, though, especially with my son. And he's seeking me out now. It just gets very, very wearisome.
It must be hard.
Well,
It's hard with family. It must be hard with your immediate family, like sons and daughters. Well, my daughter's sound because I was having the discussion with her in the back garden over the weekend because we've had a lovely few days and we was just outside having something to eat. And I was just pointing out that I was looking, the moon and the sun was out at the same time. It was half a moon, and I was explaining that she knows I'm a flat earther and she's on board with it. So I was explaining about the shadow of the moon, the supposed shadow, but the shadows are dark, and obviously they had half a moon, exactly the same color as the sky. It was a blue. So I was getting onto have you ever seen a blue shadow? And explaining this to her, and look at it, and now the sun's moved, and then even the next day, the sun had moved so many degrees. It was exactly the same shape. The sun was in the same position, and it was half a moon, no dark shadow, just a blue sky blockage. And I was explaining this. She said, "Dad, I know the Earth isn't orbiting the sun." I said, "Well done, you. Keep it that way."
Nice.
And that was my daughter.
That's a good story, one day.
Yeah, but it is good, that moon one, because they say it's a shadow, and you can just look at it's not a shadow. It's blue. It's always the same color as the sky, and you can point this out to people. And even as the sun moves throughout the day,
That's not true.
that doesn't alter that half a moon. It doesn't alter in any way. Even the next day, it's the same.
Don't want to be rude,
Yeah.
but that's not their claim, guys.
No, actually, Adam's correct. That's not their claim. Good story, but that's not their claim.
In an eclipse, that would be the claim.
Ah, right.
But the phases of the moon are caused by the three body positions. Now you can get to impossible moon phases. I've said maybe we should do this presentation, but no. Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull up a slide.
While you're saying that,
Let me
say it
just
again. Danny Faulkner goes into the eclipses and phases of the moon too. So you should really watch the video.
what Adam is going to show you in a minute is going to be the impossible moon phases. What I have noticed with a lot of heliocentric claims that you can completely reverse them within their own paradigm. So you could say that the sun is being lit up by the moon, and the new moon, the moon is actually behind the sun, lighting it up. And then when it's not behind the sun, it's lighting the little bit of light you see on the moon. That's the light that's coming from the moon, lighting up the sun. You could say that, and they can't really argue. Do you know what I mean? Like you could say, based off of the moon shadows, that the moon within their model could be 93 million miles away and 800,000 miles in diameter. And the sun could be 1,000 miles in diameter and only 38,000 miles away. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. You can reverse their whole model. Like, how did they prove within their model that the moon is not lighting the sun? How did they prove that? Because their whole claim is that the moon is being lit by the sun. But yes, you can go the opposite way with that. Just reverse it. How could you prove if you're a glober, the opposite? Can't.
Are you saying, Brian, that their claim before Adam starts is when the new moon time is, that it can't be seen in the sky, or it's not blocking any stars because it's a physical object blocking anything, or it just can't be seen, that they are saying that's because it's behind the sun?
No, I'm saying that I could make the claim that the new moon is behind the sun, lighting up the sun, and that's why we can't see it. And they can't actually disprove that. They can come at me with the model they have, but that won't disprove what I'm claiming, because none of us can verify what's happening in the sky within that model. But they can't. I could claim that the moon, when there's a half moon, that what we think the sun is lighting up half moon, the half moon is actually lighting up the sun. They can't prove that the moon is not lighting up. They can't disprove that the moon is not lighting up the sun. I'm not claiming it is. I'm just saying they couldn't disprove it if you did within their model, because their model would have to change for that to be a reality.
Even throughout the day, though, you can. I mean, that moon was out on Saturday or Sunday, half a moon, and I watched the sun traverse the sky most of the day, and that moon didn't alter one little bit, depending on the angular position of the sun.
We'll cover this.
Yeah, because don't they claim the moon and the sun's kind of moving lockstep at the same speed, so the distance isn't growing between the sun and the moon? That's why they say the shadow stays the same throughout the day.
No, maybe I'll just start this and then you can get their claim. So this is something we did back in the Iron Realm days. This is John Savage's thing, and I just kind of put it together with some graphics and the like. So it's called the impossible heliocentric moon phases, and you've probably heard me refer to it, but within the presentation it will describe how they claim the moon phases are created. And thanks to Tenth, my questions with his research in terms of celestial navigation, it really helps this presentation. The bit I was confused at the end, but anyway, I'll make a start. So the question is, how do we see a nearly full moon during the day or a crescent moon during the night? If we assume in their model the Earth takes only one day to make a complete rotation upon its axis, during this time, different parts of the Earth have day and night. However, the moon phases depend on its position relative to the sun as seen from the Earth. Okay, so as we can see here, this is where the relative positions show up, and how and why we see that. So in order for the moon to appear as a crescent based in the angle of the sun reflection, it would have to be located somewhere along these red lines. A half moon would have to be located in one of these two positions, relative. I mean, this isn't to scale. It's just showing you how the sun, Earth, and moon are lined up. So either here, and you're going to get a half moon here, etc., etc. A gibbous moon would only appear to us if the sun is to us if the moon is located along this sort of axis, and this is it. Pretty much summarize the relative position. So these are the monthly phases of the moon in the heliocentric model. This is why we don't see anything, according to them, in the new moon, because all the light's just hit in the back and there's nothing coming out the front. And so these are the other relative positions. So this is what we're seeing, the visible horizon. Now, the question I would ask is, even if we accept these visible, these moon phases, we have an issue, and exactly was a good one, I think, because you've got the moon. Let's just go back. where was it? It was somewhere between half around here, wasn't it? I can't remember which side it was, this side or this side, but it was a good half moon. And as the Earth rotates, you can see that if this is midday, as the Earth continues to rotate, we're only going to be able to see it in certain positions at certain times because of Earth curve. And this is the way it's calculated here. And what we were looking at was some of these impossible moon phases. So where you get crescents like this at night, which we've all seen. And this probably reflects the one you was on about one day, this kind of moon that we're seeing during the day. And if we go back to the chart, and I'll fiddle it later to boy, but they become a question because they don't seem sensible. And I forgot his bloody name. Somebody modelled it for us anyway on Stellarium. And these impossible moon phases are doable, but only doable if we move our visible horizon, reality, to the celestial. Okay, now I'll give you an example of that. If I'm here at night, and this is the moon phase that I'm seeing, and it's midnight, I shouldn't be able to see it. But by moving the visible horizon to where the celestial is, it opens up the field of view.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
Yeah, it's the way they bend the sky to remember the horizon has to bend, and it fits all the way around. Those full 90 degrees that you can see when you're here equate to going a quarter distance around to give you relative GP positions on the ball. But like I say, if you can see here, look, it shouldn't be visible. It's below the visible horizon. But if you move it out, then it does become, this is probably slightly better example. This is another one. If this was in the day, look, you're looking, you shouldn't be able to see it. But if you bring it out, it comes out here. Now, these aren't to scale, but the point holds true. And when you go to Stellarium and the lights, the only way in which they do it is this celestial horizon is the one that they model on it, making it visible on their ball. It is always visible because it's not on a ball when we're looking at it from the visible horizon, and we reference that. That references the flat plane. But if we're going to take this straight line and pretend that actually what we're seeing with this visible straight line horizon is the relative GP positions of this curve or this curve around here, then the only way to do that is to bring that straight flat plane down to here. And that then enables you to make these impossible moon phases that should be impossible on the ball because the Earth curve should be obstructing your view. But hopefully that understands it. And that is, like I said, fundamentally how they claim the moon phases are created. It's the relative position of the sun, Earth, and moon, so that we're only seeing the reflective parts of the moon in its relative positions throughout the month. So this is throughout the month. When we see the moon moving in the sky, remember it's Earth turning in their world. Now you can raise questions about that and kind of seeing extra edges or more degrees, etc., etc. But that they're the fundamentals. Remember what's causing what in their model. I'm done, guys. Thank you.
Can I just summarize something very quickly? I just want Adam to agree or disagree on this. What Adam is stating is that for certain moon phases, they need to place you at basically an equatorial plane to be able to see the phases, because you won't be able to see them. The angle will make it impossible if you're on the surface of a 3959 radius ball.
Oh, so we don't have an answer for everything. So we'll be on the upper deck.
Well, what I was going to, it relates to that. But this, like when I look at these pictures, you know, I guess once you see it, you can't unsee it, is the flat plane that they're using for everything. So like when they talk about Earth rotation, they're talking about the equatorial plane rotation. Instead of the sky rotating, it's the equatorial plane rotating, or the tangent plane that they'll move to the equatorial plane. And I guess it's once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I hate to take away from Adam's point about if you give them the sphere, kind of the impossibility of the moon phases on a sphere. But it's
I
such
think
a
it's
huge threat.
I think it's complementary. You're saying how it's done, and Adam's showing how it's done. It's done from the equatorial plane, showing the impossibility of begging the question from a sphere surface. So I think you're both saying the same thing, but coming at it at a different approach.
Yeah, they're silly flat earthers, man. Like it's always got a flat plane in it when it comes down. Every model they try to show is a flat plane model. Every single one of them.
I'm going to post something up because it relates to this. Just give me a second.
Right, but they do have an answer for all the phases of the moon. Everything we see, the heliocentric model, whatever non-model, that's an answer, correct?
That's an answer? That it comes from a flat plane? Is that really an answer?
No, I'm saying what we see in the sky, they have an answer for why we see that in the sky, right? Even though it's bullcrap, but they do have an answer. Like I used to think seeing the sun and the moon together in the sky was impossible.
They don't. I just gave you an example. They don't.
Yeah, it's more of a showing how the sky isn't a sphere. I don't know. Like the model that you have to attack that they're trying to claim is actually a flat Earth model. You know, so you're attacking a flat Earth model to debunk what they believe. I don't know.
It's confusing. I don't understand, Brian.
Want me to pull up the pictures, Nathan, or
you had them up, didn't you?
No, Ken Swans.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you can do that. That's handy if you do.
Yeah.
What I was saying, Neil, just quickly, was that you were saying they have an answer for all these things in the sky. I said, no. Adam just showed you an example that is not an answer. That was my point.
Okay. Oh, because you're saying you have to be in the center of it to see those certain phases. So I remember watching the whole thing, and this guy had an answer for every type of moon phase that there was.
From the center of a sphere on a flat plane.
Yeah.
He has an answer. It's like it's Bizarro World, man. I feel like I'm in Bizarro World.
Let me
I think
show
what
you
Neil's
Bizarro
saying is,
World.
like, see what Neil's saying is like the average Joe when they explain it, the moon phases, how they explain it, it seems perfectly acceptable at the first glance if you're not looking into it in depth. Well, it looks obvious, yeah. The moon the sun's shining on the moon, and that's what causes it. Simple as that. For most people, they'll just accept that.
Just give me the cue when you're ready.
Just go. Adam's presenting it.
All right, perfect. All right, perfect. So here's the first picture, and it matches the citation we're going to read. We've shown earlier, but here's that equatorial plane and the surplus globe burger that's not needed. And these all the measurements in nautical almanac and equatorial mount is all done from the equatorial plane, as refractive curvature says. It's all done from a flat plane. If you go to the citation next, I'll read it. It says, it may be a bit confusing for beginners to imagine the celestial equator and related declination. A really simple way to picture this is to replace the sphere. Now notice the language. Replace the sphere of the Earth with a flat circular platform on which the telescope stands. This platform has a size. So how big is this disk? This platform has the size of the Earth's equator, and the axis is the polar axis. That's very important because flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris is how they got all their latitudes. Even when moving the telescope to any place on this disk, the declination of the object will always be the same. The famous Andromeda galaxy M31 can, for example, always be found in Dec 41 degrees 16 minutes. And this is independent if we observe it from New York, Los Angeles, and Munich. So what Adam was saying earlier about the impossibility unless you were at the center, the Equatorial Mount Telescope says that if you have the Equatorial Mount Telescope at the center of the equatorial plane, then every person in New York, LA, Munich just goes to Dec 4116 and gets it, and because they've already got it set to right ascension based on the vernal equinox. Go to the next slide. Now, what I heard Adam saying, what Nathan showed just the other day, is this one, where it's moved from the surface to the center when you want it to work, but it's moved to the surface when they want to trick you. Now, Adam, if I'm on that surface disk on top of a dingleberry, and that's my horizon, and everything under my horizon, star-wise, I can't see, but only what's above my horizon, which is their official claim, yes or no?
Yeah, that's the paradox.
We're in trouble here, because how in the world do you see Polaris at 0 degrees when you're at the equator?
It should be below. And that's what I was showing with those moon phases and the position and the difference. Even if you go out into their big space at the astronomical difference, it doesn't matter because your plane of your view is the plane of your view. Yeah. And they have to describe it as a flat plane. Yeah. They try to move. I say you've got to either move it back to the Earth, but then and that's the only way you can see it. Like I said, that's the view that Stellarium paints. Yep. It goes to the center of the Earth to match the two things up because you can't match the image in reality by placing it on the surface of a ball. The image in reality can only match up if you are at the center of the ball. And I'm just going to, that equatorial plane, it says it's a really simple way to picture this is to replace the sphere of the Earth with this flat circular platform on which the telescope stands. Now, it doesn't matter where you are because the reason it equates to the equator isn't because it equates to the ball, it's because the ball equator is your sphere of view. 90 degrees one way, 90 degrees the other is 180 degrees. That's half a sphere. So that has to be the parameters that the ball takes in. They're the numbers it puts in. But it's taking it in from a flat plane. So the only way it can translate those numbers it's taken is to put it in the center of the sphere. It's the only way you can match the two, the ball Earth and the celestial sphere, which is on a flat plane. Why they take it to hell.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 Premiering streams, smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.